time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake.
Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't feel like the evening because the sun is shining at 7 o'clock. But what a pleasure it is to have each and every one of you, PSGL, back on your screens after a tiny break, a slight break. But we are back nonetheless. It's not league racing action tonight because we are going to be testing a little feature on the game, should we say, tonight. Just making sure everything's okay. But we are bringing you an F1 Esports Invitational here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. My name, of course, if you haven't seen me in a while, George Morgan. I am back here now on your screens. But alongside me is a more regular face to your usual broadcasting. It is Dan Field. Dan Field, or Dan Garden as I like to call you. Fieldy, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm normally being joined by an angry Scotsman, but now I've got a Welshman alongside me today. It's lovely to have George back in the commentary box since, for the first time, I think together at least, since season 29, which is it's a real blast to the past, I'd imagine. But it is lovely to be back with you today, and on what is more of a relaxed stream, I'd say, because the stakes, they don't really exist here, which is always great to see. You know, drivers can have a bit of fun, and they sort of take it a bit less seriously, I suppose, but they're still going to be racing as hard as they can. But I'd imagine we're going to see a great night of racing.
We certainly are. Nothing relaxing about tonight, Danfield, because here at Mexico, we've got lots to look forward to. We have lots to look forward to, should I say. Plenty of drivers lined up here tonight, and we can go through them as well. Very shortly, we will be going to qualifying, folks, so do not panic. Jarno Opmeer is back with us as well, including the likes of Jake Benham, the all-star, the man he is tutoring to be maybe an F1 esports driver for the future for Mercedes. I'm starting to get those vibes in the Mercedes camp right now. We'll have to keep our ears to the ground on that one for you folks. Louis Welch as well comes back in the Red Bull. Jonah Martin joins him as well. Brendan Lee, two-time F1 esports world champion, is also back again for Ferrari, with Andre Tarabukin in the Ferrari as well. Wilson Hughes and Norbert Jakob line up for the McLaren team, with Fabrizio Donoso Delgado alongside Patrick Saipos at Alpine. Not forgetting as well, Christoph Zeller, one of the superstars from Hungary. He is also lining up tonight alongside PS4 favourite or PlayStation favourite Duncan Hoffland, and he as well at AlphaTauri. We've also got Daniele Haddad lining up alongside Alessio Di Capua. They are going to be lining up for Aston Martin, as well as Ruben Pedreño Catalundi for Alfa Romeo, Jordan Poland and Primoz Miklovic lining up for Haas, with Luke Smith and Sam McBride lining up for Williams, folks. It's going to be a tasty affair, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's great to see everybody back in the live chat as well. I've missed you guys. I have really missed you, and it's a pleasure to be back as well. Certainly, let's have a look at the circuit, because that in itself is something we do need to see, and Mexico in itself has given us some great racing in the past. 4.304 kilometers, that's 2.674 miles, 17 corners, speed trap at the end of the home straight in Sector 1 at the very start, crossing the start-finish line, heading in towards Turn 1 into the Solana S's. You then have the Tranzera Straight, which also has DRS leading down towards SA Del Lago at turns 4 and 5, with then a DRS detection point heading through the S's section, heading out of Sector 2 into Sector 3 at the Avalo Straight, which will then lead you in towards the final round of corners around the stadium section before you then start your next lap. It's going to be a lot of fun, folks, and Danfield, we're very close to qualifying time here, but a great opportunity to see some new youngsters.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting to see a lot of the F2 drivers coming up into the big leagues for the Esports Invitational. I'm really excited to see the likes of Christoph Zeller as well. I believe this is his PSGL debut, so I'm really excited to see how he can do. Of course, Hungary's next star I'd imagine, of course, after Danny Berejnay, he's been such a staple in esports for so long. It would feel wrong that one day, there was just no Hungarian on the grid. So I definitely think that Krzysztof Zeller is a driver we need to watch out for today. But as you said, qualifying is getting underway very sharpishly.
It is indeed, folks. We're going to be heading over to Mexico right now and join our drivers for the start of Q1. Full qualifying as standard here at PSGL, and as you can see, plenty of big names on the list. A little couple of corrections as well. Looks like we might have had one car drop out. Jack West coming in tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, that is a Williams car. So he is going to be replacing Sam McBride. So Jack West taking up that seat, replacing Luke Smith. And we look forward to seeing how he gets on. But great to see the likes of Duncan Hoffland coming in tonight as well, because we generally see him at the top tier in PlayStation, but nice to see him now competing with the others in PC. PC has certainly become, over the last couple of seasons, a haven for the best talent in the Formula 1 game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, previously it was sort of PlayStation that had the pinnacle of league racing, especially before the incarnation of PSGL PC F1 back in, I think, season 28 was our first season on the PC platform. Really, it was the PlayStation where everyone was the most competitive, I'd say. And, you had the likes of Wilson Hughes, Duncan Hoffland, Joost Noordijk as well. All of those guys competing for the championship on that F1 2020 game. They've all culminated over to the PC platform, as well as the likes of Jake Benham, Sam McBride. All those Xbox guys have joined them on the PC to make one huge hub of the top league racing talent, which has given us this beautiful grid today.
It certainly has. And Brendan Lee showing us some nice drifting slides that you would probably more likely see in the World Rally Championship. But heading out to the intermediate tyres, a fabled sign or something we generally see here in PSGL, certainly heading out on the wet tyres to sort of allow them to sort of set a lap, get used to the circuit of sorts, just get something on the board, something to measure against, and just sort of get a feel as to what Mexico is all about. So a constant scene here by all the drivers as now Brendan Lee makes his way now into the pit lane, no doubt to stick on a set of slick tyres, no doubt. Plenty of them now out on track, including Jonah Martins in the Red Bull. He's on a set of medium tyres.
Of course, Jonah Martins, been a part of the F2 scene since season 29, now getting the opportunity to race in the Esports Invitational. If I'm not mistaken, he won in Italy last season in PSGL F2 when, of course, I was still in that grid as the commentator, and we used to have Jack Canan on the PC comms. What a downgrade we've seen to having
Absolutely.
having a little Englishman. Yeah, I think George agrees that, I mean, Jonah Martins he's a very talented driver, and he works very hard indeed. Unfortunately, in his Red Bull car, the Dutchman has invalidated on his run. That leaves Alessio Capua also invalidating his lap in front of him. So it's unfortunate these drivers not really being able to set the times early on. I believe we got Fabrizio Donoso is going to be the first one to complete a lap, and he's got through the dreaded S's without invalidating his lap. So he's just got the stadium section now. Jan Artman getting out of the way to the left-hand side of the Chilean driver, back after a few months break, and now he's getting his foot back into league racing. It's off the exit of the final corner. He comes back into the pit lane, and he's not going to be completing that lap. And we're just not seeing any times on the board at the moment. I think we've got 14 minutes left to go. No one's set a lap yet.
Yeah, a very quiet start to this event, but like we say, we see that constantly. A lot of the drivers may be a little bit green to the circuit. Some of them may have set warm-ups prior to this event, but obviously at the same time, they come into this, it's a different kind of pressure when you get into the actual qualifying event, because like you say, you've only got a few laps to set a valid time, and because all of these guys are generally within the same half a second, it could be so tense to get your time on the board. It could feel so treacherous, so difficult, and it really takes a special character in order to nail one. As now Louis Welch, he looks like he's going to be one of the first to set a lap. Here comes the Padman, a 1:15.034 for the Red Bull. Not a bad place to start, Danfield.
No, absolutely, especially on a set of the medium compound of tyres. So I'd say be pretty pleased with that lap so far. We do have some other drivers on runs at the moment. One of the Alpine Esports drivers of Patrick Saipos currently coming through the first sector now. Saipos is a very, very talented Hungarian driver as well. There's a lot of talent that actually comes out of Hungary, of course, a part of the Alpine scheme. And you'd imagine that he's going to be starting a good few races next season in F1 Esports. Very talented, and he's just coming through the Tranquil. I forgot all the names of the corners, so I'm going to need to look that one up. But through the second sector he goes. I don't think he's pushing on this lap. A lot of these drivers really struggling to get their times on the board properly. And I don't know who else is on a run at the moment, George. But so far, 12 minutes to go, only 2 laps at the moment. One of them set on the Inters.
Yeah, quite a visit so far. Jarno Opmeer setting a 124.191. His teammate Jake Benham now coming into the final sector as well. Just so happens that Jake Benham and Jarno Opmeer have been so busy lately on stream, racing with each other on the 2-player career mode save. But now we're watching Benham come across the line and set to 124.794, 0.6 of a second slower than his teammate Jarno Opmeer. So still a little bit of work to do, but actually on intermediate tyres, they're not going to worry too much. But I know what Opmeer and Benham are like. Very competitive as a pairing, as now Cartalundi comes across the line to set a lap 0.2 off the pace, or 2.5 slower than Louis Welch.
So far, Louis Welch, the man on top at the moment, but I think he might soon be beaten by Fabrizio Donoso, because Donoso is about to begin his lap on a set of the soft compound of tyres. So he's going to be the first one to venture out on this red wall set down one of the longest straights. We'd expect a lot of corners, a lot of overtakes to be made in towards the first turn here, especially on lap number 1 into the braking zone. He goes, and we'll see he's carefully caressing the car through here, then go foot flat to the floor. DRS now enabled for him as well to complete the first sector. For Fabrizio Donoso, his time is going to be a 28.2 through here, now in towards sector 2, where it gets all a bit technical. One of the slowest parts of the circuit, the double right-hander. Just going to about 100 kilometers per hour, then accelerating up through the gears and in towards the S's section. He goes. What can Donoso do? Can he keep it on the road? He wasn't able to set a valid lap time last time by, but he's done this very nicely indeed. And off the exit of the second sector, it's a 55.2 for Donoso. We'll see what he does through the final corners. Oh dear, catching the curb on the inside there. He's managed to save the car, but he's definitely shaved off a few tenths of his laps, unfortunately for him. But in towards the last corner now. We'll see what the time is for the Chilean driver, who's having to fight the car through the corners. It's still going to be a 14.0 as he crossed the line to go a full second ahead of Louis Welch. Yeah, definitely, and I've got to say, poetically done, Danfield. Superb. A whole second clear now of Louis Welch. The pad man has been dethroned off the top of the timing tower, but he's now going out on fresh, soft tyres. He's on an out lap himself. Jack West also out and about, but he's invalidated his lap. He's making his way around the final corner. May go out for another run as he now crosses the line. Certainly looks like he will do on that set of medium tyres. And certainly this will be his first proper run, given the fact that there's no laps sustained on those mediums. But Patrick Saipos also out and about. He managed to get up into P5 with a 115.119, just over a tenth slower than Louis Welch, but at the same time, not bad at all for a place to start. Race clutch's own, of course, Patrick Saipos, driven for Alpine Esports, and had a wonderful start as well. Great to see him back here in PSGL 2. One of my personal favourites, certainly as a young prospect. He's taken certainly some incredible race results in PSGL, beaten many of the best, has battled with the likes of Jarno Opmeer, and generally these rising stars, we're seeing more and more of them. We saw them in Challengers Series as well, the likes of Thomas Ronha, the likes of Shadow, all of them making their way up the leaderboards and attacking some of these top-end drivers. We're really starting to see the next generation, the next level of drivers coming through the field now, Danfield. Yeah, absolutely, and league racing is the place where these drivers are bred and born, and it's lovely to see the likes of Wilson Hughes, Luke Smith, Patrick Saipos, Primož Miklavčić as well, mixing it in with the likes of Jarno Opmeer and Fabrizio Donoso, who've been a part of the esports scene for so long. At this point, they're considered veterans. We've got the young and up-and-coming rookies being able to battle them on a weekly basis, and it is brilliant to see. You're getting this content for free as well, which is it's incredible, really, that this sort of stuff exists. And I think I don't even know where the esports scene would be without league racing. That's why leagues such as PSGL are so important. If you're enjoying, of course, you can hit that big red subscribe button beneath the video. Make sure you hit us with a like as well. It'd be greatly appreciated. But with 8 minutes to go left in qualifying, Fabrizio Donoso still tops qualifying. As I say that, Louis Welch goes into the 13s with a 1:13.9. But George, the bottom 5, that's got to be forming pretty soon, and still, they haven't all set laps at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. Great lap from Louis Welch, but will he be dethroned yet again? Duncan Hoffland coming in towards the final sector. He's in right in the midst of the final sector as he comes through. Turn 13, 15, 16. Now around the Peraltada in the AlphaTauri. Coming around the final corner at turn 17. Hugs the inside line. Duncan Hoffland, welcome to PC. Sets a 1:14.003. Fractions, mere fractions away from Louis Welch. Impressive there from Duncan Hoffland, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Duncan Hoffland, a part of PSGL for quite some time, a title contender in Season 28 on the PlayStation platform. He was beaten out by one of his rivals on the grid today, Wilson Hughes, currently occupying 5th position on the grid in Q1. But it's great to see that Duncan Hoffland has found a footing in PC as Ruben Pedreño goes to the top of the order with a 13.8, and then we've just seen another lap coming out from Norbert Jakob. That was to go in to 5th position. At the moment, the bottom 5 is Alessio Capua, Andrei Tarabukin, Jonah Martins, Brendan Lee and Daniele Haddad. It'd be a shame to lose Brendan Lee at the moment. He is out on circuit and he's doing his best to get himself into the next part of qualifying, as Carter Lundy has gone into 2nd position. Andrei Tarabukin into 3rd. He's climbed himself out of the bottom 5, but Brendan Lee at the moment down in 19th position. He's got to set a nice lap time to get himself, at least I'd say, into the top 5 is where you're going to be completely safe, as Christoph Zeller has crossed the line now and he's gone into 2nd position with a 13.8, as Jarno Opmeer, there he goes, right to the sharp end of the order with a 13.7.
He certainly has. The Flying Dutchman back again. Brendan Lee, though, can he unseat his fellow 2-time F1 Esports World Champion? It'll be really impressive to see Brendan back at the top. We'd love to see it in the Scuderia Ferrari around the Peraltada. The young Brit back again, this time in PSGL, round the final corner. He moves 4th fastest there for the Ferrari, a 1:13.890, just over, or just under 1.5 tenths of a second. Literally away from the Flying Dutchman. Impressive to say the least. Mere gaps, a fractional between all the top drivers at the higher end. Jake Benham still in 5th. Daniel Haddad is up there too, but we've got plenty of other big names coming through. Jack West out on a lap, as well as Jonah Martins, who is currently also without a lap time. We've also not seen laps from the likes of Alessio Di Capua, who's driving the Aston Martin tonight. But what a time by Jarno Opmeer, Danfield. Welcome back, as they say.
Absolutely, of course, Jarno Opmeer, a championship leader at the moment. 3-time PSGL champion as Jonah Martins crossed the line to go 12th. He's not going to be safe with that one. But how about that, yeah, from Martin's fellow countryman, Jarno Opmeer, to absolutely dominate qualifying so far. He's only just seen himself up to the top of the order only recently, as I believe McLavchich had just crossed the line to go into 8th position. That puts Wilson Hughes into the drop zone. The bottom 5 at the moment is Hughes, Saipos, Poland, West and Di Capua. Jack West is on a run at the moment. He's just coming into the final sector now, so he's got to secure his spot into the next part of qualifying. But a 57 is not looking competitive whatsoever, and he's backed off on this run. I'm trying to see, with all the yellow flags, you can't actually get a gauge of how much time is left in this session. Wilson Hughes has crossed the line to go into 2nd position, puts Luke Smith into the bottom 5. We have 4 minutes to go in qualifying, and with 2 drivers yet set a lap, it's not looking good for their qualifying sessions.
No, did it? It just feels like it's gone so quick. What I can tell you, Patrick Saipos has gone just over 2 tenths quicker in the middle sector, so he is absolutely flying, looking to get a quick lap in before the end of the first session. So Q1 drawing to a close now, folks, so we're going to see shotgun finales now here at the end of Q1. We're now watching Patrick Saipos head in towards the final sector now, leading in towards the DRS to out of turn 15 into turn 16 shortly, in sector 3 proper. Peraltada now, the final corner. Is he going to come in? No, he's going to set this lap. He goes into P6, a good place to be, but potentially a dangerous place to be at this very sensitive point, because there's still an opportunity for cars to go out on fresher tyres to potentially unseat Patrick Saipos. He could very easily drop into the elimination zone at this point.
Absolutely. I'd say the cut-off point is probably going to be a low 0.9, I'd imagine. So Patrick Saipos not completely in the clear. I'd imagine that the top 6 with a 13.8 is going to be relatively safe to see themselves into the next part of qualifying. And you'll see everyone in the bottom part of the order coming out for out laps. I believe Luke Smith is actually just about to cross the line in his Williams, and he's going to go right to the top, 13.6, and he dethroned Jan Ortmir at the top of Q1. 13.6 is very, very impressive, especially since he was so far down the order, and that should definitely see himself into the next part of qualifying into Q2. So I'd say Luke Smith, he's going to be very, very pleased with how that lap's gone.
Yeah, definitely. I think certainly the man who was signed to Race Clutch as well, a huge prospect, and has certainly risen through the ranks. Now leading the charge here in Q1, a 1:13.678 to beat, and goes clear of Jarno Watmir by nearly a whole tenth of a second, which is impressive. You can brag about that to your friends. And what an excellent performance so far, an excellent showing from Luke Smith. Back at the top again, as we've got plenty of others out on laps. Norbert Jakob now commencing his fast lap. Now this man is in the elimination zone, the bottom 5 that we could be losing if it stays like this. Jonah Martins, as well as Norbert Jakob, Jordan Poland, Jack West and Alessio Di Capua, the bottom 2 yet to field valid lap times. So huge pressure now. They've only got one chance to dance. Can they do it, Danfield?
Well, Norbert Jakob isn't going to be able to do it on this run. He's invalidated onto the Transira straight. He's run a bit wide off the exit of the chicane. He's still got 1.5 minutes left in this session, so he does have time to go for a lap. But in behind him, I believe the furthest up in the drop zone is Jack West. Then it'll be Jordan Poland, and then Alessio Di Capua following in behind. So Jack West with an impressive first sector of a 28.3, trying to claw his way out of the bottom 5. Currently in 19th position without a lap time to to his name today. His teammate at the moment, Luke Smith, sitting pretty at the top of the order. We'll see what Jack West can do. Can he see himself into the reaches of the top half? He's looking like he's backed off for this lap, so I think he's going to go for one more. Jordan Poland has invalidated, as has Alessio Di Capua, so no one in the bottom 5, and Jonah Martins as well. They've all invalidated, so none of them able to set a lap time at this moment in time. And I'd say that Jonah Martins, he's not going to get around to actually even start a new one.
No, another man who is also struggling is Duncan Hoffland. He's slowed down as well, so lots of them in trouble. The padman Lewis Welch, he is out and about. Maybe he'll set a valid one. Fabrizio Donoso retires, so does Christoph Zeller, as well as Patrick Saipos. Luke Smith has also retired. He has no qualms being up at top spot, but as we're now watching, Louis Welch, the padman, fantastic, coming through the last corner now. Can he lift himself from P14? He can indeed. He goes 9th fastest in the Red Bull. Superb stuff indeed from him, as we're also seeing others move their way up as well. Haddad still in 6th. Brendan Lee is out on an outlap. Further up, we can see Andre Tarabukin is now up into P5 after moving his way up as well. So plenty of big names now starting to rise up through the order. Primoz Miklovic also now coming in towards the next series of S's as they come out into Sector 2, very nearly into Sector 3 proper. He'll have DRS very, very shortly as well. Haas, of course, performing expertly this season in Formula 1, certainly in the 2022 era. Can Primoz Miklovic do it in the 2021 car? Coming down towards the hairpin bend, now at turn 13 into 14, and now heading through towards the Peraltada, turn 16 and 17. Big opportunity here from Primoz, but no, he's invalidated in towards the pit lane. Devastation, he's right on the bubble. He could lose it here, Danfield.
Absolutely, and it is getting to that point. Duncan Hoffland is about to cross the line at the moment, currently in 16th position. Can he eliminate Miklavcic? Indeed, he can. Martins is invalidated. What about Jordan Poland in the other hat to knock out Carter Lundy in this session? He goes right to the top by 0.005 of a second. Now Carter Lundy in the drop zone. He's about to cross the line at the moment to eliminate Patrick Saipos as he comes across the line here. He goes 13th, and Saipos is out of qualifying in Q1. That is big, big drama, and that's a huge loss to this session. Jonah Martins unfortunately invalidating on his lap, but we are losing in this session. Patrick Saipos, Primoz Miklavcic, Jonah Martins, Jack West, and Alessio Di Capua, who wasn't even able to set a lap time. But Patrick Saipos, that is a huge shock to see him out of qualifying this early.
Well, talk about huge shocks. You're absolutely right, by the way. Race clutches Patrick Saipos out of qualifying. Of course, driver for Alpine F1 Esports as well. A huge hammer blow for that particular team. But how about Jordan Poland topping the billing here in this PC event? Of course, a huge figure in PlayStation has come across to this platform now, very much like Duncan Hoffland as well, who also survived in Q1, stayed in P14. And further up, we've got the likes of Cartalundi as well, who's moved up to challenge against the top tier of drivers as well. Incredible session, folks. Amazing to say the least. Drama right through. The big loss, though, Patrick Saipos. Did not expect that one. We're going to run through the order now. And there you can see it. Jordan Poland in P1 here in Q1. What a way to do it as well. Beating Luke Smith, who he himself, a grandiose return, P2 here in Q1 as well. Jarno Watmere, the Flying Dutchman, 5 times a race winner in the last 5 PSGL events. Near enough a perfect record. Brilliant indeed. Still in P3 here in Q1. Looking fast. Wilson Hughes as well up there in P4. Ruben Pedreño comes back with a P5 as well. And Norbert Jakob, Andre Tarabukin, Daniel Haddad, Fabrizio Donoso and Jake Benham round off the top 10. If we have a look further down at the eliminations, folks, Patrick Saipos, Primoz Miklovic, as well as Jonah Martins, Jack Quest and Alessio Di Capua, we're losing them from qualifying. A big hammer blow, certainly to this event, Danfield. Losing Saipos is such a devastating blow for the Alpine team, to say the least. He is expertly quick, usually qualifies extremely well as well, but today seemed to be his undoing. Is it the case that Mexico doesn't suit him?
I don't really know. He was only 7,000 off of making it into the next session of qualifying. He was just that gap off of Louis Welch, who managed to squeak his way into Q2. But I did say that it's going to be around about a low 9 that was the cutoff, and that was his time. It was even in relation to that lap that he set. I said he wasn't safe, and unfortunately he took the gamble that he'd be able to get into the next part of qualifying. And unfortunately, all the drivers behind him just managed to hook up laps, were able to jump ahead of him, and he's seen himself out of qualifying. Really unfortunate for Patrick Saipos, but of course, it's not going to bother him too much. He's going to have a nice drive through the field if the pace is there, or maybe Mexico isn't a strong suit of his. A lot of unanswered questions, but that will be answered in the race today.
Certainly will be, folks, and I have to tell you, it's only just getting started. Of course, we've got the strategy segment of this qualifying session, Q2 coming up next, of course, and this is when we'll see the drivers yet again duel it out. This is the battle of wits, the battle of strategies, and obviously the drivers will come in hopefully with a plan in mind. Obviously, it might be a different set of affairs given the fact that we are running an Esports Invitational, or a social race, should we call it, tonight. But nevertheless, they will be giving it their all. A huge opportunity for the new drivers to sort of pit their wits against some of the best in F1 Esports today, and obviously in PSGL today as well. But you can certainly firmly expect that many of them will look to try and really bring it against some of the best of the world. We're going to head over now to qualifying 2, folks, and certainly I'm looking forward to it. Let's have a look now as we watch Fabrizio Donoso coming into the S's section in Sector 2. And again, Fabrizio Donoso, sadly enough, we saw that he has left race clutch downfield.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a part of that team, I think, since the incarnation of F1 Esports all the way back in 2017. And it is a real shame to see him leave, and I'm wondering, I'm scratching my head at the thought of where his next esports adventure is going to be, because surely he's not going to be cut out of the F1 esports grid. I mean, there's a lot of young talent out there in the Challengers series that could be in with a shout of making it to F1 esports, but I just don't see Fabrizio Donoso being replaced this early on. He's still got something left in the tank, and he's about to begin on his lap coming down the Recta Principale in towards the first corner. He's got a few cars in front of him, but I'd imagine we'll just ride on board with Donoso himself, the Chilean driver in the number 8 Alpine, through the short section of S's now and onto the Transira straight. Granted, this is on a set of the medium compound of tyre, so don't expect the lap times to be lit up by the Alpine here, but we'll see what he can do as he comes through the Essa de Lago and up towards Horquilla corner. If you couldn't already tell, I've got my track map to my side, so now I'm able to actually list off all the corner names up towards the S's for Donoso now. Haddad, meanwhile, has set a 14.2 as his banker in Q2. I'd expect that to be beaten quite swiftly as right on the limit of an invalidation. That was a beautiful run through there, through fraud to Fabrizio Donoso to 55.8 through the second sector. Louis Welch on the medium compounder tyre has done a 14.9, so we'll see where Donoso can find himself on this compound, and he's looked very confident on this lap. Hughes is the first driver to go into the 13.9s. We'll see Donoso to the line. He's the quickest of the medium runners with a 14.8, but he is a good stretch off of Wilson Hughes and Daniele Haddad.
Yeah, great start from Wilson Hughes, the only man in the 13s at this moment in time. The top two on soft tyres. Here comes Andre Tarabukin. He comes across the line. No time set from him. I think an invalidation in the final part of the circuit is what really caused an issue for him. Jake Benham out on track as well, making his way through the first part of the circuit. We've also got Luke Smith out on a lap as well. Remember, he was right at the top end in Q1 and now making his way into the S's section. So let's keep an eye on Luke Smith. Can he pull it off? We'll have to wait and see because, of course, we know what he's like. He is capable of it. If he can hook it together like he did in Q1, then without a doubt we'll see him up at the top end. As he makes his way down in towards the final sector, he's gone purple in Sector 2 as he now rides his way in towards the hairpin bend at turn 13. Now in towards turn 15, 16, 17 coming up next as well as he now rounds the final corner out of the peril. Tada hugs the inside line once again, and it is going to be Luke Smith. No, again, an error, an invalidation perhaps there, Danfield.
It was an invalid lap from Luke Smith, but we do have Jake Benham on the set of the medium compound tyre. He's just come through the final sector now, and he's managed to keep this lap valid. Of course, Benham becoming a fan favourite at the moment with his work with Jarno Otmir on the Co-op Career Series, and I won't lie, it's a very enjoyable series to watch on both of their Twitch streams. He's gone into 4th position, just behind Donoso with a 14.9. I'd imagine that is going to be beaten by some drivers on the medium compound, on the soft compound of tyre. We've got we've got Poland, Seller, Jakob and Hoffland all on out laps. I believe actually the Haas driver has just begun his lap down in towards the first corner. Now we'll see where he can compare with Wilson Hughes and Daniele Haddad. Of course, all these guys using the softest compound of tyre, the red striped softs. We'll see what they can do. The highest grip, but the lowest wear, or the highest wear, I suppose, out of any tyre that we're utilising today. In towards the first sector split, and it's purple for Poland with a 28.2, so he's looking competitive at the moment. Of course, quickest in Q1. He got the best of the conditions out of anyone. We'll see how he fares in Q2 as in towards the S's section he goes. It's going to be a series of quick lefts and rights, and oh dear. Unfortunately, the first left-hander has caught him out, and he's invalidated what looked like a pretty competent run from the Dutchman.
Yeah, it certainly did. It's a big shame as well because he looked quick, and naturally nestling together a purple Sector 1 is certainly no mean feat, so credit to him, but unfortunately unable to pull it together, which is a big shame. And I imagine there is a sense of frustration. Here is the Flying Dutchman, Jarno Otmir, back again out on track here in Q2. 8.5 minutes of the realm left to go in this session, folks. And the man in the Mercedes, as I said before, 2-time F1 Esports World Champion, and not to mention 3-time PSGL Champion, including 1 World Championship in PlayStation, 2 PC titles, which myself and Jack Kinnan had the pleasure of commentating over the last couple of seasons, has given us some of the greatest moments in league racing history. And some of the best performances as well. I hark back to Australia back in season 28. What a demolition job that was after the safety car. As Duncan Hoffland moves to the top now. Also coming over from PlayStation. Nestles the AlphaTauri up into the 113s. Joining that of Wilson Hughes up in the top 2. Very special lap indeed. Well done to Duncan Hoffland, Danfield.
Absolutely. At the moment, we're seeing 2 drivers that were competing for the PlayStation title back in season 28. Duncan Hoffland and Wilson Hughes. Has been a great journey for the pair of them. Of course, Wilson Hughes has joined the McLaren system, and now he's a part of Veloce himself. So it's really brilliant to see how also a close personal friend of mine is doing. I really am proud of him. He's actually just beginning on another lap here. Christoph Zeller has managed to triumph him by 0.08 of a second. We'll see how he gets on his lap, but I believe Jarno Otmir is on a run at the moment, George. He's just coming in towards the second sector now on a set of the medium compound of tyre.
Yeah, down into the Trans-Zero straight, coming in towards SA Delago at turns 4 and 5 on the mediums. Now, obviously looking at maybe at that alternate strategy as an option heading into this race. Certainly it does help if you can start in the top 10 on medium tyres. Maybe Jarno's feeling it, then maybe that is a possibility against this field. This could be a perfect performance. Great opportunity for a video as well, to say the least, as he makes his way in towards Sector 3 as well, down in towards turn 12, and then in towards turn 13, which is the next hairpin bend you'll have. Then a series of corners, turn 14, 15 and 16. Some very dogged bends as well. You've got to be on the throttle, feathering it quite a lot. Now around the Peraltada, around the final corner, up towards the line, and up goes Jarno Opmeer into P7. Keeley, though, not enough to beat fellow medium tyre driver Brendan Lee, and sits behind him there, near enough a tenth of a second, as Wilson Hughes now hits the top in the McLaren with a 1:13.583. He said, Duncan, you're not having that. That's mine. P1 goes to the Scot.
Yeah, and there's a huge chasm between the pair of them, 4/10 of a second at the moment, separating them. Wilson Hughes coming out with a bang in Q2, and hopefully we're going to see a lot more of that as we continue on in this qualifying session. We've got Luke Smith in the final sector now, through Forest Soul now in towards the stadium sector, where we'll see all the fireworks at the end of lap number 36 of this race. What can the Williams driver do as he comes off the exit of the Peraltada corner and to cross the line? Can he compete with Wilson Hughes? Indeed he can. A 13.510 to go, only 700ths clear of Wilson Hughes. The times are getting very tight at the top. Rune Pedreño as well was also able to put in a pretty decent time himself with a 1 minute 13.6. We're going to be expecting around about low 13s, probably a 13.2 or 3 is where we're going to see pole times. But I'd imagine if these guys are hitting these laps already, I do fear what we could see in the final part of qualifying. But so far, it's been a great session, George, as one of the fan favourites himself in the Mercedes, Jake Benham, has just begun a lap. Yeah,
he certainly has. He needs to pull it off as well, because he is in real danger at this point of potentially going out. And we've still got just over 4 minutes left in qualifying. Jarno Opmeer is on the bubble in 10th place. Brendan Lee is as well. Will they choose to go on to the softs, or will they opt to take, I suppose, the option of picking tyres at the start of the race, being outside the top 10? Will that be an option they favour here in Mexico? Because, of course, the alternate strategy is known to work here, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a range of strategies that you could use. I believe it is slightly different on the F1 2021 game, where it is firmly a one-stop. I remember on the last game, you would be doing a two-stop race, and they were always lovely to see. But I'd imagine we could see someone opt to stay into the pit lane and try for the medium tyre strategy. But I don't believe Jake Benham sees that as the case. He could be eliminating his teammate here, as he's 8/10 up on his previous best. We'll see where that puts him in comparison to the likes of Smith, Hughes and Pedreño, as Jake Benham up towards the line. The All-Star himself goes into third position ahead of Rune Pedreño. Impressive time there from the youngster, but it's not enough to triumph over Luke Smith and Wilson Hughes.
And straight over to his teammate as well. Jarno Opmeer is not taking that line down. He's back out again on the soft tyres. Firmly believes that he needs to be in the top 10. Wants to get into Q3. The Flying Dutchman will be heading out on a lap. We're now getting to the point, folks, where all the cars are going to be coming out now, looking to try and secure safety heading in towards the final session of qualifying here at Mexico. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez officially opened back in 1959. We've seen many brilliant races over time as well, and no doubt we'll see another one here tonight at PSGL. I'm looking forward to this, that's for sure. Jarno Opmeer now down the next straight, leading in towards what will be turn 12 out of the Recta della Valle. And now heading in towards turn 13 as well, once again. And we could be on the precipice of greatness here. Jarno Opmeer now in towards the final few bends. The Peraltada is what's lined up next as he now rounds the next right. Almost a double corner pretty much as part of one, really, the Peraltada. Coming down the main straight, though, this time at the Recta Principale, and this will commence his flying lap here. The last lap, no doubt, in this Q2 session for Jarno Watmir as he now heads in towards turn 1. Luke Smith has retired, so has Ruben Pedreño. They feel that they're safe in this session as now we watch Jarno clip the curbs here in the first sector, trying to maximise his exits out of some of these corners, opening up the DRS now, down the next straight at the Transera, in towards SA Delago now shortly at turn 4. Once again, he'll just clip the curb this time and just feather that throttle again as he just nurtures the car around turn 5, in towards turn 6 now at the hairpin or the double right-handed corner. And now down in towards the S's section. Turn 7 first, then 8, 9, then 10, into 11 as he now takes all the curbage once again. Such an aggressive section in this track. High speed here as well. Down in towards the next right-hander at turn 12 now. Out of the Avalo straight as he does so. Once again, abuses the curbs here at this circuit. In towards the next hairpin bend at turn 13. Into turn 14, 15, 16. In towards the Peraltada around this next right-hand side. Loses the car slightly but keeps control. Superb. Hugs the inside. Jarno Watmir straight to the top with a 113.489. Brilliant from the Dutchman. Back with a vengeance. Unseats Alpine's Luke Smith. Superb, Dan. Superb.
It's always Jarno Watmir, man. He is incredible. Almost a machine himself. We do need to check his PC and check the Google folder, surely. But he has seen himself out of the bottom 5 as Fabrizio Donoso, I think he might be out of qualifying here because he's not pushing on a lap. We've got Louis Welch in the final sector. I think he's gearing up for a run, as is Carter Lundy and Norbert Jakob. So all of these guys are trying to see themselves into the final part of qualifying. We have just over 15 seconds left to go before the clock strikes 0 and drivers will not have an opportunity to start another lap. I'm wondering if the Red Bull of Louis Welch is actually going to make it. He's got 5 seconds to go. 3, 2 and 1, and Louis Welch, what a miscalculation. I think he might actually, okay, I think we've seen a slight visual glitch there because I think he's just managed to cross the line and begin his lap. So yeah, the timing tower's always been an issue, but he's managed to begin his run. Donoso isn't pushing on a lap now, which leaves, I believe, Brendan Lee currently in the bottom 5. He's set his time on the medium compound of tyre and he just needs to see himself into the next part of qualifying to compete for pole position. The Ferrari now coming through the S's of turns 9, 10 and 11 as I believe Donoso getting out of the way to the left hand side. The DRS now enabled for this short straight. He's 4 tenths up on his previous best. This isn't enough at the moment to see him into the next part of qualifying, but he's got to find all the time in the stadium sector now. Sector 3 up towards the Peraltada corner. Brendan Lee currently in at P11. He has a 14.1 to beat as he crosses the line now. Can Brendan Lee get himself into Q3? Oh, that is not secure one bit, as Jordan Poland is actually going to take the liberty of eliminating him here, because up to the line he goes into 9th position to put Brendan Lee out of qualifying. Norbert Jakob goes into 10th, puts Tara Buchan down into 11th, and then Tara Buchan immediately responds by going into P10, and Norbert Jakob saw a slight glimpse of Q3 prospects, but it was swiftly taken away by Andrei Tarabukin, who gets himself into P10. Donoso, Welch and Lundy weren't able to set a time to get themselves out of the bottom 5, which leaves them 3, as well as Jakob and Brendan Lee, out in Q2. But surely, George, I think certainly the Ferrari man of Brendan Lee being eliminated here, that is the big story here.
That is a big story. There is several big stories. Fabrizio Donoso also out as well. And you've got 2 drivers there that fought to the end in the 2017 F1 Esports Pro Championship. Incredible. They went to Abu Dhabi, if you remember, folks. The battle between Donoso and Brendan Lee. Both of them now sitting P12 and P13 here on the grid after Q2. But these are the results. What a lap from Jarno Watmir to land P1 here in Q2. A jaw-dropping effort, certainly from the Flying Dutchman. A 113.489 secures him top spot off Luke Smith, driving the Williams here today. Wilson Hughes, the Scotsman, lines up in 3rd place with Christoph Zeller in 4th as well. Jake Benham in 5th with Ruben Pedreño in 6th. Daniel Haddad in 7th. Duncan Hoffland in 8th. Jordan Poland 9th. Andre Tarabukin in 10th. And we lose Norbert Jakob, Brendan Lee, Fabrizio Donoso, Lewis Welch and Carter Lundy, unfortunately. But what an incredible session. Dan, absolutely mind-blowing. Jarno Watmir pulling out all the stops. A clutch finish of sorts, you could argue. He had to do it, though. And what a way to do it. It looked like he was on the brink. It looked like we had seen it all, but in the final moments, he just knows how to pull things off around here in PSGL.
Absolutely. Jarno Opmeer, of course, he's not a three-time champion of PSGL for no reason. Of course, back-to-backs in season 28 and 29. And if you're a real OG, well, I guess not really OG, it was only season 25 that he won the PlayStation title. You'll know that he is a very well-versed driver and, of course, the two-time esports champion himself. He's going to come up with these moments, and I'm feeling like this Q3 grid is sort of like a future F1 esports grid, because only in the top 10, only 2 of them were actually competing in F1 esports last season. Those were Jarno Opmeer and Daniele Haddad, so this really is sort of a passing of the guard and maybe a slight magnifying glass into the future. And I'm really excited to see how these drivers get on in Q3, the top 10 from our 20-man grid, competing it out for 12 minutes straight of qualifying action to see who is going to start on the front row of the grid. And I'm really excited to get going here, George. Yeah,
me too. We're just waiting now to get started here in Q3. And I mean, wow, what a session. Coming off the back of a very, very interesting Q2. We've now got, like Dan said, a very different grid to what we would usually expect. But nevertheless, I suppose just proves what we're saying about some of these new talents. I mean, like you say, we've got the likes of Wilson Hughes, who I firmly believe has stepped up his game in recent weeks, and certainly the likes of Duncan Hoffland as well, making the transition to PC. This, by far, is certainly the best performance I've seen from him, definitely on this platform, to name a few times. Jarno Opmeer, of course, we know what he's like. He is brilliant in all the sense that he is a two-time F1 Esports World Champion. But what about the likes of Andrei Tarabukin as well? Not to mention Jordan Poland, Jake Benham as well, the rising star, the all-star, who is now partnering Jarno Opmeer here tonight, of course. And like I said before, those two have been working together. So maybe a little bit of practice, working together, understanding each other's moves, understanding how each other work, getting ready for potentially a working relationship in the future, Dan? Could you see that happening?
Absolutely could. I think all of these guys are going to be sort of bolstering themselves, you know, and competing at the top level. You know, this race isn't for points or anything in the PSGL standings, but I have no doubt in my mind that these guys aren't going to, you know, just pass it off and just race for fun. You know, they are still going to compete to win, and I think by pushing themselves to go as quick as they can in every scenario possible, then these drivers are certainly going to be helping each other out. But we do have some activity down on track after 2 minutes of waiting in the garage. We've got Duncan Hoffland coming out on circuit as the lone Alpha Tauri. His teammate Christoph Zeller in the pit lane at the moment. Yeah, it's all looking a bit quiet out on circuit. I believe actually Hoffland's being joined by Wilson Hughes, so it's lovely to see that Q3 is getting underway.
Certainly is. All on soft tyres. No qualms about changing tyres in this session, folks. And I want to hear from you, everybody at home. Firstly, thank you, each and every one of you, for tuning in tonight here on Thursday nights. The first time we've had a top-tier broadcast on a Thursday night since last season of PSGL, the season before this season, obviously, season 29. And it's great to be back here on Thursdays. Hope you're all keeping well. And I want to hear from you. Who do you think is getting pole position at the end of this session? Please light up the live chat, please, or read them through as we watch the drivers make their way through. Obviously, we're watching Duncan Hoffland right now, and we'll look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. But like I said, leave a like and subscribe. Your support, it really means the world. And we'll look forward to certainly a great race here for tonight's social. I can already see, look at this, Milan Stee, Jarno, Ernie Simmons, Jarno, Clark Bohr, Jarno, Christoph Zeller, says Domi, as well as Kevin Carvalho, Jarno, easy pole, mate, he says. Jarno, again, Jarno Goatmere as well. Jarno, I tell you what, we have got lots of Jarno fans here tonight. Some words for Wilson Hughes as well. Jake Benham is there as well. Luke Smith, there's some support there for him as well. So lots of drivers being launched through the chat here. Dan, where do you think it's going? I'm going to put you on the spot now. Where do you think pole position's going here in this session?
I've just got faith in Jake Benham today. I don't know what it is, but I think he's learning from the arguably the greatest F1 esports driver of all time. You know, they're racing together in co-op career, and I think there's one day that it's got to be sort of the student becomes the master, and why not today? You know, Jake Benham, of course, only 15 years of age. He can actually qualify for Challengers 2023, if I'm not mistaken, because I believe he turns 16 sometime during the qualification period. So Jake Benham, he's not too far off of an F1 Esports spot in the future, but certainly already where he is at his young age, you know, he is a star for the future. And I think today he's going to be picking up pole.
Yeah, well, there you have it. That's your word from Dan Field. Jake Benham is the tip. Wilson Hughes, we're currently watching come through the middle sector. Unfortunately, Duncan Hoffland, I believe, invalidating his lap, so he will not be setting his lap in this first run, as we're now watching Wilson Hughes coming through turn 13 now. Into the final sector proper. And already, we're the clock counting down to nearly 7.5 minutes. Extraordinary how fast it flows. As now we're watching Wilson Hughes head round the final corner now to put the first lap on the board of 1:19. Not a representative lap, of course, but certainly one to get himself set up. And he is going to lead them in towards turn 1. In front, at least for now, but you certainly will want to do better than that, Dan Field.
Yep, absolutely. And I imagine it's going to be swiftly beaten by Luke Smith, who's currently in the third sector. He's just in the stadium part of the circuit now through Foro Sol, and up towards Peraltada he goes. Certainly is looking a lot more competitive than what we've seen from Wilson Hughes, but oh dear, catching the inside curb and now sliding his way through the final corner off the exit is still at a very impressive 13.6, and considering how scruffy that third sector was for Luke Smith, I'd imagine he's got a hell of a lot more left in the tank. Christoph Zeller has invalidated his time. Rune Pedreño's not on a push lap at the moment, and Duncan Hoffland, neither is he, which I believe leaves Jake Benham and Daniele Haddad as the next two to cross the line. We'll see what they can do as Pedreño goes into fourth and Duncan Hoffland into second. Jake Benham not pushing at this moment in time. Daniele Haddad goes across the line to do a 13.8, so the times are coming thick and fast, but of course not all these drivers are pushing on their laps at the moment. Tara Buchan has invalidated. Jan Ortmir has just got going on his run, as Christoph Zeller and Jordan Poland invalidating. So with 6 minutes to go left in Q3, we're halfway through the session. It's Luke Smith, the unlikely candidate for pole position. Not on representative times at the moment. I'd imagine we're going to go a few tenths quicker than this. It's a 13.6 his provisional pole, and he's 2 tenths clear of Daniele Haddad.
Certainly is, but how long will he be up there? Jarno Watmir, certainly, as we've seen from Q2, has the ability, the potential. We know he's got the pace to certainly unseat Luke Smith. Heading now in towards the best part of the middle sector, the S's section. Very fast pace. And if you can get an overtake out of this section of the track, then it's always a beautiful move, to say the least. Heading down this long stretch now where DRS will be opened up. Jarno Watmir, invalidation, I believe, Dan Field. So that's going to apply the pressure on. Invalidating the first run, that is not ideal whatsoever.
He actually invalidated his last lap as well, so that's 2 laps in a row that he's invalidated here. And, well, he's certainly got the pace for pole position. We saw that in Q2 when he set 13.4, but if you can't set a valid time, what any good is being incredibly quick? As Tara Buchan doesn't look like he's pushing on this lap. He's coming into the pit lane. I believe the first wave of laps is sort of done. I was going to say Jake Benham was pushing, but then he's just pulled a Verstappen in 2016. He's just completely cut out one of the first few corners. He's not pushing on this lap. Zeller Christoph isn't either. So yeah, we have a little bit of a lull period at this moment in time, George, which I guess gives us a slight bit of a break in the action. And I guess we can sort of read out some of the messages in the live chat. There's a lot of love for Jarno, it seems. You know, there's let's go Jarno. Jarno's got 2 more attempts. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of love for Jarno Opmir here, which is great to see.
Yeah, the Pogmere Academy showing up in full force here tonight, that's for sure. So big hello to all of you for joining us. Big hello to everybody for joining us here at PSGL tonight. Of course, it's a pleasure to have each and every single one of you with us. Jake Benham, he's the only car still left out on track, and he's going to be coming into the pit lane. So here we go, folks. And we've got confirmation, 1,000 people as Jake Benham crashes in the Peraltada. 1,000 people watching us here tonight on this broadcast. Big hello to each and every one of you. And a big thank you as well. Please make sure you smash that like button and also hit the subscribe button as well. It's always a pleasure to bring you all the action. And now we have got the quiet, should we say the stillness, before it all erupts yet again. And already Jana Watmir out now of the pit lane, keen to get out. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jordan Poland also venturing out, folks. So I want to hear from you for the final time. Who is your tip for pole position? Is it going to be Luke Smith? Will Jana Watmir trumpet? Will Jake Benham, as Dan Field said, will he get on top spot? Let me know in the live chat. Let us know. And we'll soon discover who the very driver will be to start on pole position. It's going to be an epic one, that's for sure, as we now watch the Flying Dutchman just cautiously nurture his car around this circuit. He doesn't want any cars in the way. He wants to be on pole without a shadow of a doubt. And I have to tell you, if you're going to do it, there's only a matter of moments left.
Yep, and Jana Watmir doesn't seem like he's in much of a hurry to get his lap underway. He's got Ruben Pedreño just out in front of him, another hot prospect in F1 Esports, and of course a part of Race Clutch Alpine's academy team. So a lot of high quality talent on this grid. But Jana Watmir currently out on circuit. I'd imagine he's just going to go for a maybe a cycle lap. He's got 2 minutes left to go in this session, so theoretically he can mess up on this run and then go for a final push lap right at the death of the session. But we'll see what he can do. He's just coming to a very slow crawl through the stadium sector now. Jana Watmir without a lap time on the board. If he is where he is now, he's starting 9th position. We have all 10 cars out on circuit. Is keeping it to the outside line. Here goes Jana Watmir for his attempt at a lap of Mexico, yet to set a time in this session. He's already invalidated his lap twice, but maybe third time is the charm. And in towards turn number 1 on this run, breaking just after the 100-meter board, kissing the apex beautifully through here, in towards the S's, riding over the curbs of turn 2 and 3 and up towards the Transera straight now. We'll see what he can do as Ruben Pedreño is pulling off to the right at the left-hand side. He's already invalidated his run, but it's a 28.1, already a brilliant start for Watmir, and I believe it might have just come crashing down. He's not looking like he's pushing at the moment, George.
Well, it's a big shame because he went purple in Sector 1, but now that's swiftly been taken off him. Looking further up, we did see Ruben Pedreño up there as well, but he's backed off very firmly as well. So, Jana, if what you're saying is true, he will only have one more chance to actually land something on the board here, as now we're watching Jana Watmir now down this next semi-straight, leading in towards the next right-hander. And that'll be at turn 12. He will at least set some sort of a banker, I would have thought, now in towards the next hairpin. This, of course, being at turn 13. The next right as well. And then towards the Peraltada, the last corner. And I think he is going to be teeing up one final run. Wilson Hughes, let's keep an eye on this man. He, of course, now making his way around the Peraltada as well. But this time he's going to set a valid lap time. And he tops the billing into P1 now as well. And goes first fastest with a 1:13.466. And Daniel Haddad joins him as well. A 1:13. Luke Smith now tops the charts with a 1:13.373. Further up as well, Jordan Poland not yet able to set a valid lap time. Christoph Zeller, he moves up into third fastest as well. Duncan Hoffman comes across the line. No improvement from him either. Andre Tarabukin around the final corner. He doesn't go or set a representative lap time. Jake Benham himself now on a flying lap as well. So drama here at this point of qualifying. Jana Watmir now also out on a lap. Last chance to dance into the S's now as he makes his way through the fast sector, leading down now towards turn 12. He's going to need every ounce of this circuit to make this possible. Luke Smith with an epic 13.3 right now. Down in towards the next right at turn 12. Turn 13 hairpin will be next. Jana Watmir, the Flying Dutchman. He has gone purple in sector 2. Can he land a purple lap here around the final corner as he now rounds the Peraltada? Jana Watmir to go for the unthinkable. Crosses the line. He can't do it. P4 is all he can get. Big hammer blow here in the last gasp of qualifying.
Pedreño across the line to go in towards 6th position. We still have more runners on laps at the moment. Jordan Poland's about to come to the line. He hasn't set a lap time as he crossed the line to go in to 7th position. Luke Smith in towards the pit lane. Wilson Hughes following in as well. Duncan Hoffland towards the line. He goes into 8th. Jake Benham at the moment is pushing, but he's not looking like he's on his best form as he comes up towards the line. Tarabukin can only muster 10th position as Benham to the line goes in to 6th, which brings us to an end of qualifying, as we're not seeing a push lap coming out from Daniele Haddad. So the unlikely candidate for pole position with the fastest time out of anyone we've seen today, Luke Smith, tops the order with a 1 minute 13.373. He'll be accompanied on the front row by the Scotsman Wilson Hughes. What an end to qualifying there. It is going to be Luke Smith on top with Wilson Hughes in second, Zella Christoph in third.
Massive, I got to say, drama at the end there. Did not expect Jarno to stick in P4, but it's not the worst place. Second row of the grid, huge opportunity, lines up alongside Christoph Zeller, so a huge opportunity, certainly no less for the Flying Dutchman. But Luke Smith again, following on from his consistent qualifying antics. He's been up at the top end consistently in our qualifying sessions here today. Wilson Hughes as well, an impressive visit from him as well. Second place, he'll line up on the front row of the grid. The young guns starting to come through and really grasp it by the neck right now, really starting to go for it. It's absolutely brilliant to see. Here's the confirmation, folks. Luke Smith in first place. He starts on pole position. Wilson Hughes lines up alongside him in second. Christoph Zeller in third. Jarno Opmeer in fourth place. Daniele Haddad in fifth with Ruben Pedreño in sixth, with Jake Benham seventh, Jordan Poland in eighth, Duncan Hoffland in ninth, with Andre Tarabukin in 10th place, folks. Incredible. What a session. What a session. Did anyone expect that? Luke Smith on top order, lined up alongside the Scotsman Wilson Hughes. I've got to say, I'm so pleased for Wilson because he had a lot of trials and tribulations, certainly when it came to the Challenger Series, but coming into this one, Danfield, a lot of confidence shown in the Scot. He's got a lot of potential going forward. He is with the McLaren Academy, the McLaren Shadow Academy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds for this young man, because he has certainly got all the talent required to be a top-level competitor.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson Hughes is someone that I've been commentating on ever since F1 2019. You know, he's been a part of my sort of commentary career for so long. We were actually alongside each other in the comms box back on HCA Elites, all the way back in 2020, and he is a driver that has consistently improved every single game. He's only gotten better, and I'm really pleased to see that he's on the front row of the grid today. But of course, George, normally around this circuit, being P1 and P2 might actually be a bit of a curse, because of course you're not going to get the vital slipstream in towards the first corner. It's actually going to be Christoph Zeller and Jarno Opmeer that might be benefiting the most, and that always leaves us with some brilliant action. And I'd imagine, George, we could see some 4 wide action in towards the first corner.
Certainly down the home straight. But before we get into any of this, folks, before we head down back to the circuit, just a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back, folks. You join us back here at Mexico, and they're on the formation lap getting ready for the start of this Mexican Grand Prix for this F1 Esports Invitational. Just want to say a big thank you to all the viewers as well for joining us. What a pleasure to have each and every one of you, brilliant lot here with us for this live broadcast. And I want to hear from you, who's going to win the Mexican Grand Prix here for this Invitational. I want to see all of you in the live chat. Come on, folks. Get them lit up. And I'm going to head over to you now, Dan, to give me your final word. Where do you think this is going?
Well, I mean, I put him for pole position. And unfortunately, he didn't come out on top. But you know what? You just got to double down when the going gets tough. And I'm saying Jake Benham from 7th on the grid is going to rise through the order. He's going to have a brilliant fight with the drivers in front of him. And he's going to take the win of this Esports Invitational race here at Mexico.
Well, there you have it. Lots of comments saying Jarno Opmeer to win this one, folks. The question is, can he do it? Starting from P4, the winner in our last 5 PSGL races, and has done it in great fashion as well. He won at Hungary, Austria, Jeddah, Spa and Zandvoort. Jake Benham, his teammate, 2 podiums scored this season, P3 at Monaco and a P1 at France. As they all line up, Luke Smith on the front row, alongside him, Wilson Hughes. And get ready, folks. Like and subscribe if you will, please. And get ready as we now watch the tail of the field lineup. It is going to be certainly one hellacious ride. Keep it with us. First light, second light, third light, fourth light, the fifth light. And it's pedal to the metal. Go, 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 go. Luke Smith gets away extremely well, but measuring toe for toe is Wilson Hughes. The Scot goes side by side with that of Smith as they march down towards turn one. And certainly the McLaren with every chance. Jarno Opmeer with a huge dive down the inside as they make their way in towards turn one. Manages to scoop up Christoph Zeller right to the death. A spin there at the back as Pedreño goes down. As they were watching, Wilson Hughes now lead the way in this Mexican Grand Prix. Luke Smith in second, Jarno Opmeer in third, Christoph Zeller in fourth, Jake Benham, what a rise, he's in P5, Danfield.
3 wide into the first corner, back behind. It was Opmeer, Zeller and Haddad going into the corner all at once as Haddad and Benham are now having a scrap. They're wheel to wheel through the S's section. Haddad's had to go off the circuit and now they're riding still side by side through here, toe to toe. Oh, they were close to contact and indeed they have collided. Jake Benham had to cut the corner and he's gone through the polystyrene barriers. Who's going to come out on top? It's going to be Daniele Haddad seizing the opportunity. He retakes 5th position there, but what a start from Benham as well. And how about that though from Wilson Hughes, now 7/10 of a second clear from Luke Smith as they complete lap number 1. What a start for this Grand Prix, George.
It certainly is. Jordan Poland on his, should we say, what a visit from Jordan Poland. He's now beginning to attack Cartalundi as they make their way down the next straight in towards turn 1 now. Pedreño has officially retired from the session. In comes Jordan Poland now, side by side with the Alfa Romeo. Moves up into P8 in very, very good fashion as well, and is now moving his way into P8, holding his own, to say the least. Welcome to PC, Jordan Poland. You're doing a cracking job.
A nice overtake as Tarbukin in behind goes up the inside of Cartalundi. He's made that tidily in towards Esterlargo. I don't think Lundy had much of a defence on the medium compound of tyre in comparison to the fresher and grippier soft compound. I'd imagine Duncan Hoffland is going to be biting. He's going to be chomping at the bit on the rear of the Alfa Romeo in the Alpha Tauri car. We'll see what he can do as they rise up towards the third lap now. Of course, DRS is going to be enabled. That is going to be a very tasty treat that we're going to get to see as Wilson Hughes now 8/10 clear up from Luke Smith, who's already cleared Jarno Opmeer by a second now. So already in this race we're starting to see some gaps forming, George. As DRS has been enabled, we won't get a taste of that until Rector Della Valle. Of course, a double DRS straight for Principale and Transeras. Oh dear, we've seen, unfortunately, Patrick Saipos out of this race. He might have had some damage and just called it quits. But already, George, 2 retirements in 3 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a good place to start. Patrick Saipos is out, as well as Ruben Pedreño. Not the way we wanted to get this race underway, that's for sure, folks. But Wilson Hughes, without a doubt, leading the way in grandiose style. Currently sitting 7/10 of a second with Luke Smith in second place. Jarno Opmeer in third. Christoph Zeller in fourth. Daniele Haddad touching right in behind as well. This is absolutely, certainly tremendous. And Jarno has actually built a pretty steady gap. Christoph Zeller dropping to 1.1, and I have to say, hellacious stuff indeed. Jarno certainly flying, and that gap is now being bridged certainly further outwards as we're now watching them make their way in towards the final couple of corners here on lap 3 of 36. And with DRS opened up proper, I'm sure without any shadow of a doubt we're going to be seeing plenty of moves here, Danfield.
Yeah, surely you'd think Daniele Haddad is going to be the first one to utilise the DRS to its full extent, because Zeller Christoph hasn't got any, he's not got that luxury in towards the first corner, and easily the Italian driver is going to breeze on by in towards turn number 1. He secured P4 on circuit, and he's going to get another healthy dose of the DRS down the Transera straight. Again, Zeller's not going to be able to enjoy that, and that could leave him vulnerable to Jake Benham now, because he is closing up towards in towards the braking zone as Esterlargo, but he's not close enough to go up the inside. So already we've just seen our first dosage of DRS, And now we are getting back into the action. It's worth mentioning now that we received a $50 donation from Joseph Kwon, which is greatly appreciated. Great commentary as usual. Thank you for the entertainment. And he's showing his support for Jarno Opmeer himself, currently riding in third position at the moment, but that is a very much appreciated donation there through Super Chat. So thank you so much.
Joseph, big thank you for your very generous donation indeed. I've got to say, amazing how far this has come. And certainly your support for Jarno Opmeer, I'm sure, will not go unanswered, as now we're watching the Flying Dutchman himself, currently sat just under 8/10. Well, it's just above 7/10 in fact, as he now closes. Jake Benham now moves alongside and past Christoph Zeller up into P5. So tremendous stuff from him. Jordan Poland sitting in 7th. Bit of a gap then to Andrei Tarabukin, who's currently under the mercy of Norbert Jakob, who's also at the mercy of Duncan Hofland. A big side-by-side battle through the first sector as they now make their way down the next straight. And certainly it felt like Norbert Jakob might have got slightly muscled off there, but Duncan Hofland holding on to P9 in grandiose fashion. So there you have it, folks. The AlphaTauri's now lit up well and truly in the top 10. Christoph Zeller in 6th place, Duncan Hofland in 9th, Norbert Jakob in 10th, Cartalundi in 11th, Brendan Lee just sitting in P12. I'm not sure whether he's just being patient or if perhaps he's struggling to find the pace around Mexico at the moment downfield.
Well, in comparison to the drivers around him, he's got 65% of the battery. Cartalundi's only got about 20%, so he is certainly saving in comparison to his rivals. And I'd imagine that in the next few laps, Brendan Lee is gonna put his foot down and start going for some overtakes. We've already seen some penalties, by the way, in this Grand Prix. Jake Benham and Jonah Martins have both got 3-second time penalties added to their times. Of course, I think we're going to see a lot more of them around such a challenging circuit like Mexico. But here comes Brendan Lee. He's only 2/10 off the back of Cartalundi, who's now blinking red lights. That means he's harvesting ERS, and that's going to allow for Brendan Lee to soothe his way up the inside, and he goes in towards the braking zone, slightly ahead of Cartalundi. He's got the inside line, and that's going to be 11th position secured for the Ferrari man. Whether he gets onto the back of Norbert Jakob at the moment, as down towards through the Transira straight up towards Essa de Largo. He doesn't look quick enough, but that is a move made for Brendan Lee. He's getting on nice and tidily at the moment in on his medium stint, and I'd imagine he wants to overtake Jakob as soon as possible, because of course being the lead medium runner, that's going to mean he's going to have the best of the strategy later on. He's going to be the first one to be overtaking those on worn out medium tyres when he's got the fresh softs all to himself.
Yeah, and I have to say, just looking at the rear view here of Luke Smith as he's now being chased by Jarno Opmeer, that is a menacing view indeed. Two-time F1 Esports World Champion, the current F1 Esports World Champion, has gained the success that many are chasing. Certainly some of these young drivers have that stamped firmly on their mind, looking to get into the Pro Championship and potentially try and be the next Jarno Opmeer, or be themselves, I suppose, as the saying goes. Now we're watching Luke Smith get so close to Wilson Hughes, and these two could very well be dueling, as now we see Jordan Poland go ahead of Christoph Zeller as well. Luke Smith now down this long straight, opens up the rear wing now here down the Transira straight. Will he get a move done here on Wilson Hughes? Heading down in towards Essa de Largo, not quite yet. There's the Flying Dutchman, Jarno Opmeer, still in 3rd place. His teammate, though, keenly enough, Jake Benham, starting to gain. And I get the feeling Mercedes would love it to have 2 cars on the podium, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. This race isn't for points at all, so I'd imagine that these drivers aren't going to be caring about the penalties they've accumulated. Of course, they don't want to be riding off the track at every given moment. Of course, they risk disqualification if they do that, but I'd imagine that Jake Benham, he's still going to push as much as he can, because this race doesn't really have any effect in the long run, so why not battle with these guys on circuit? Luke Smith has been closing to the rear of Wilson Hughes for a good good number of laps now, but of course he's not been pushing for the overtake, and that's allowed for Jarno Opmeer to catch back up to these guys. And if these guys are all actually backing off and not wanting to overtake each other, it's just going to give Jake Benham more of an advantage and allow for him to close up a lot quicker, as Luke Smith, he's not close enough to go up the inside in towards the first corner, but further back behind, that is not the case for the Ferraris because they're going to swap around. Brendan Lee sees himself into 9th position now, and he's going to go up the inside of his teammate Andre Tarabukin, who's not giving up the position, but indeed Brendan Lee makes it work. His teammate concedes here, and now he's at the mercy of actually Norbert Jakob in behind in the McLaren, and it's not quite enough to go for the overtake, but a nice tidy swap around for the pair of them as Brendan Lee up to 9th position.
Yeah, indeed, and a big statement as well, certainly with Brendan Lee on medium tyres, soft tyres on Andre Tarabukin's car. Maybe that's a sign that maybe the softs are starting to die off slowly but steadily, but then again, if it is a 2-stop, then I'd imagine they'd want to push the softs maybe a little bit longer, but we'll have to wait and see. We're watching Wilson Hughes now come in towards turn 12. Luke Smith right on his tail as well. The Williams that was so impressive in qualifying. And Jarno Watmir in behind him as well. Remember, it was Jarno Watmir who unseated Luke Smith in Q2 as they now round the final corner at the Peraltada. Now coming down this long straight, huge opportunity maybe for Luke Smith if he can get close enough. Still has quite a deficit to close to, 0.6 of a second of the realm in towards turn 1 as well. Jarno Watmir being dragged up behind. Jake Benham has lost a little bit of time, around about 0.6 off the pace, as now Daniel Haddad moves into P4. So I'm not sure what's happening to Benham. Maybe he's losing it in the final sector, but Daniel Haddad with a very key overtake, and great to see the Italian up at the top end.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 seconds off of the back of Jarno Watmir at the moment, and that was about 1.5 seconds last time by, so they've lost a good amount of time to the Dutchman. I wonder what happened to Jake Benham that caused him to lose all of that time, as I'd imagine they are quickly going to make up the deficit if they actually start to push, because at the top of the order they're not pushing really at all. Wilson Hughes got 50% of the battery, Luke Smith was 60, and then Jarno Watmir with 70, so all of these guys have got bountiful resources to play with, but I'd imagine only on lap number 9, you can't win the race at this point. They've got to think about the long game, got to think about their tyres as well. I'd imagine in the next few laps is when we're going to start to see some of the soft runners come into the pit lane to strap on a set of the hard or the medium tyres, depending on how they're feeling with the confidence. I remember back to WOR, I think Ruben Pedreño ended up puncturing his mediums after pitting quite early from a VSC, if I'm not mistaken. My memory's a little bit hazy, but I'd imagine that the mediums, they are valid, I'd say. These drivers can opt to go for them at some point.
Here we go. Sorry to interrupt there, Dan, but Brendan Lee now making another big move, this time on Duncan Hoffland. Another soft tyre man dispatched, and Norbert Jakob out of nowhere sending it this time on Andre Tarabukin, and moves up into P10, and as a result it comes Fabrizio Donoso, who, as I said earlier on in the broadcast, battled Brendan Lee all the way to the end in 2017 for the major title in Formula 1 Esports, and again this time sending it Tarabukin, trying to get his position back, but Donoso managing to keep him at bay. What a moment here in lap 10. But how about that? Brendan Lee now into P8 on medium tyres, is splitting all the softs right now, and well, in fact splitting the AlphaTauris as we speak. Christoph Zeller in 7th, Duncan Hoffland 9th.
That's going to be a concern for Hoffland and Tarabukin, that they've not been able to drop the medium runners early on. It's really going to hurt their races in the long run, especially Tarabukin being mired in 12th position behind the likes of Jakob and Donoso. And he's got 2 cars deficit to his fellow soft runner, Duncan Hoffland. We've seen the first pit stop from Jake Benham coming out now in the Mercedes, and we'll see what tyres he's fitting on. It's going to be a set of the medium to go onto that Mercedes, and I'd imagine the undercut is going to work in his favour. He'll be able to jump Daniel Haddad and close the gap to Jarno Watmir up ahead of him, as Donoso has managed to clear Norbert Jakob in towards the first corner. They go. Tarabukin close to the rear of Carter Lundy, and I actually think Lundy's overtaken Tarabukin, so another position lost for the Ferrari driver. It's getting to the point where he's just got a pit, but on lap number 11 we've seen George our first at pit stop.
We certainly have. Jake Benham opted to take the early jump, and we'll have to see whether he will earn any of those places back now later on in the race. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled, folks. He's now out at the very tail end of the field. Only 4 penalties dished out right now currently. Well, 4 drivers on penalties. Fabrizio Donoso, Jonah Martins, Alessio Di Capua and Jake Benham. And naturally that could be devastating, certainly when there's only a small amount, because that means that against several drivers that have not sustained penalties. It means you could drop heavily down the field as we're now watching the cars now make their way into Sector 3. And there you can see Jack West as well trying to gain on the rear end of Andre Tarabukin as Jana Watmir now as Luke Smith pits. Jana Watmir moves up to second place. Danny Elliott up into third now. So Wilson Hughes leads and has managed to gain around a second deficit on the Flying Dutchman as a result. So there you have it, folks. The pit stops are being applied now, and we'll start to see more and more pit onto the medium tyres from the softs.
Yeah, and I think that has all been sparked by Jake Benham, who now is coming onto the start-finish straight. We'll see where he emerges in comparison to Luke Smith. He's not close enough. He's actually not really gained at all on the Williams driver. He's about 1.9 seconds back. We'll see how he's able to compare to Wilson Hughes, Jan Otmir and Daniele Haddad. Surely they've got to come into the pits at the end of this lap, given that they've been on these tyres for a third of the way in this Grand Prix. We're on lap number 12 of 36. The grid really is beginning to take shape, as we've seen most of the soft runners come into the pits, box onto a set of the mediums, and they're going to be going to the end. We'll have to watch for Wilson Hughes, Jan Otmir and Daniele Haddad as they're coming through now the final sector. It's a McLaren, Mercedes and an Aston Martin, all Mercedes powered actually, as how are they going to pit? Hughes comes in, Jan Otmir staying out I believe, and Daniele Haddad also boxing. Indeed he is. So Jan Otmir, the lone soft runner now.
Yep, going for the overcut. Will it pay off for him? That is the big question. He needs to now pull out a deficit. Big charge now needed for Jana Watmir. Keenly enough though, Brendan Lee, second place on medium tyres, has actually done a lot of the good work here, cutting through a lot of those that did start on the soft. So impressive from him, as now we're watching a bit of a battle being made between Alessio Di Capua and Jonah Martins, who just suffered a time penalty. Alessio Di Capua with a time penalty to his name as well, as he now makes his way down through towards the next straight at the Tranzera. He now moves up into 8th spot and now chases Jack West, but now Jonah Martins trying to gain on the Aston Martin, just not quite enough. Does late break though, nearly goes into the rear in fact of Alessio Di Capua. It got so close between the pair, but P8 for Alessio Di Capua and Jonah Martins in 9th, as Jana Watmir now makes his way down the next straight at the Avalo in towards turn 12, and surely without a doubt you'd expect him to box this time as he makes his way up towards up towards turn 13, round turn 14, 15, 16, then 17. The Peraltada next on the softs for now, but will that all change in a matter of a pit stop? Not this time. Jarno staying out here downfield.
That's crazy from Jan Otmir. I imagine he'd have pitted on this lap. He's now on lap number 14. He's done 13 laps on this set of the tyre. Already Luke Smith has been able to undercut Wilson Hughes by 1.1 seconds. So where's Jan Otmir going to file out in this train? Surely he's going to be behind the likes of Jake Benham, maybe even Jordan Poland, if he's not careful. As Alessio Di Capua closing once again to Jack West, and he goes up the inside in towards the first corner. Jack West keeping his foot in there, still trying to hold it around the outside. He backs out in towards turn number 2, so Di Capua moves ahead of the Welshman. Jonah Martins could have an opportunity to go up the inside, but he's not got any resources to play with, and all these guys depleting their battery early on and fighting like this is not going to be helping Luke Smith, because he's gained about a second and a half, I'd say, on this lap alone to those drivers in front of him, and there'll be traffic really that's getting in his way. It's going to decrease the gap between himself and Wilson Hughes, so that's not going to help him in the long run. So I'd imagine Luke Smith is going to be hoping that they get out of his way very nicely once he catches them.
Yeah, well, here comes Jarno Watmir now around the Peraltada yet again. This time, Jarno, is it going to be this time? No. Staying out again for yet another lap. Interesting stuff here from the Flying Dutchman. Very different challenge indeed. He's actually staying out. So Brendan Lee still remains in second place. That 8-second delta pretty much sustained at this moment in time here in lap 15, so we'll have to keep an eye and see whether that cascades downwards or not. But Jana Watmir managing this race at this moment on soft tyres, at least for now. Let's see what happens. You never know. It could become a worldie of a strategy. Brendan Lee, though, holding up a bit of a train. He has got Fabrizio Donoso, and we're going to witness yet again another one of the great duels from the past, as now they make their way down the Tranzera straight. In behind as well, Norbert Jakob, Kartalundi, Primoz Miklovic in the back as well, with Alessio Di Capua further back, with Jack West in behind him, and Jonah Martins as well. down in P9 with Luke Smith in 10th. So still a long way to go. Luke Smith still on 2-lap-old mediums, nurturing 10th spot ahead, though, of Wilson Hughes. You can argue net P1 position, but we'll have to wait and see how it compares. Yada Watmere now really losing time, 3/10 down in this lap off Brendan Lee. So Brendan Lee starting to get closer and closer, and Jarno is starting to lose out steadily at every giving moment. So as he now makes his way around the final corner now, does he choose to pit? Surely he will this time. No, he's staying out again.
It's a bit of a head scratcher for me. I'm a bit confused as to what Jarno Opmer is actually thinking here, because he's losing so much time to Brendan Lee in behind him there. He's been about 6/10 this lap. Jack West is already pitting on his mediums. Maybe he's picked up some damage because it's way too early to box off the mediums. These drivers are going to be looking at going maybe another 8 or 9, maybe even 10 laps as West has decided to go onto the softs, and that looks like a 2-stop to me. You can't take 20 laps on the soft compound of tyre. We'll see how that works out for Jack West. He's going to be the quickest driver out on circuit. That's a one less medium runner that Luke Smith has to clear. He's almost within DRS range of Jonah Martins, and right at the sharp end of this train is being led by Brendan Lee and Fabrizio Donoso. Of course, two icons, two staples on the F1 Esports grid. I believe the pair of them have both been a part of the grid in every single year. It's 5 years on the F1 Esports grid since its incarnation in 2017, and they're still competing to this day. Of course, Brendan Lee winning the first 2 seasons. Fabrizio Donoso has not quite found that success, but he's always been a threat. He's always been a race winner and a contender for podiums. As Jan Ortmere finally, George, comes into the pit lane at the end of lap number 16. He's almost done half the race on this set of the softs, and I'd imagine that he is going to have a huge deficit to make up from those in behind.
Well, it's going to be certainly interesting. Brendan Lee now leads this race. Fabrizio Donoso in second, Norbert Jakob in third. But now, of course, this means that Luke Smith is effectively net leader. That is for sure, folks, because, of course, he's already boxed. He is on 4-lap-old medium tyres. He's ahead of Wilson Hughes. Jarno Opmere now right in behind Christoph Zeller. So Jarno Opmere now very, very far down the field. But I'm guessing that he's hoping that, given the fact that he has got the fresher tyres of the lot, that 3-4 lap deficit on the compound, could it be the case that that could prove clinical towards the end of this race? Is that what he's thinking, Dan?
Certainly, he's going to be in a better position than these guys when it comes to the tyres at the end of this race. And it could actually be the difference between a race win and a podium only. So we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, up ahead, though, Luke Smith is beginning to clear some of the traffic in front of him. He's got past Jonah Martins, and I think Wilson Hughes is going to look to do the same. And it is crucial that these guys clear those medium runners who've been on the tyres since the beginning of this race, because of course they don't want to deplete their own mediums by battling them too hard. So we'll see what their fate is in towards the first corner. Alessio De Capua, I think this will be an easy move for Luke Smith, because De Capua hasn't got any DRS. Luke Smith is going to have a very long straight, a nice dosage of DRS and some healthy slipstream as he pulls out to the right hand side. He goes on by, as does Wilson Hughes. He gets past Jonah Martins, and I think Jake Benham is also going to look to do the same. He can't quite do it up the inside, but possibly down the Transera straight. If he gets a good exit out of here, he could be challenging Jonah Martins in towards the braking zone, and that certainly looks like what he's doing, because he's close to the rear of the Red Bull. He could dive up the inside and towards the Essa de Largo. Wilson Hughes does the same on De Capua in front of him. Jake Benham now wheel to wheel. He's going to have to go the long way round of Jonah Martins in towards Horquila corners now. It's a double right-hander for him. Jonah Martins keeping his foot in there, but how about that from Jake Benham up ahead of the Red Bull car, now into 9th position. He's got to clear Alessio De Capua there. Maybe not as easy as he would have liked, but certainly impressive nonetheless.
They don't call him the All-Star for nothing. Jake Benham into P9, overtaking Jonah Martins. Further up as well, Wilson Hughes taking names as well as he overtook Alessio De Capua. It was very key for Luke Smith to put a car in between him and Wilson Hughes in order to potentially build that deficit in between him and his race competitor at this point. Jarno Opmere has already dispatched Christoph Zeller. He is now trying to chase down Jordan Poland. We'll have to see how effective he will be on those fresher tyres. Jake Benham now back again, this time on Alessio Di Capua, side by side now down this home stretch between the two users of the Mercedes engine. Here comes Jake Benham, the All-Star, once again lighting things up here in Mexico, up into P8, goes ahead of Alessio Di Capua, the Italian, down to 9th. So Benham looking to chase on Wilson Hughes and Luke Smith. Three youngsters, three with such promising careers.
Expect these guys in the next few years to all be competing on the grand stage in F1 esports. And on a side note, it might have just occurred to me now that Jarno Opmeer, he could have stretched those tyres to possibly avoid having to clear any of the lap traffic. And he won't be using up his tyres as much as these guys. And possibly later on in the race, when they've all bunched up once again, he'll certainly be in the best position in terms of the tyres. So we still do need to watch out for the Dutchman. We still got Luke Smith, Wilson Hughes and Jake Benham, who are looking like the favourites at the moment, but you can never count out the Dutchman. On lap number 19 of 36, Brendan Lee is just about to begin lap number 20. He leads from Fabrizio Donoso and Norbert Jakob in behind. We've got 17 laps left in this race, George, but I'm expecting we're still going to see so much excitement.
We certainly will. Daniel Eldad now is the next one, looking to make moves, this time on Jonah Martins, down through towards turn 1. This time the Aston Martin will head down the inside as they make their way into the Solana S's. Daniel Eldad with a send, and he sends it brilliantly, beautifully, and now moves into P10, and he's now chasing on teammate Alessio Di Capua. Without a doubt, Di Capua has surely got to let his Italian counterpart through, to say the least. Down in towards the next left now, in towards Essay Delago at turn 4. Not quite close enough just yet, but I'm sure they will get on the phone or on the radio and certainly make that move count. But further up, still Luke Smith leading the charge, the net leader of this race, with Jake Benham, not the net leader of this race, because Wilson Hughes is the net leader of this race right now. Luke Smith is net second place, with Jake Benham in behind him. Daniel Eldad not far behind either. Jonah Martins is starting to fall down the field, and Jarno Opmeer, keenly enough, how about that, has crawled through 0.8 of a second in the last 1.5 laps. So he is making some serious ground here, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the masterstroke strategy is actually beginning to pay off, because he's making up the deficit of the undercut very nicely. Meanwhile, Brendan Lee comes into the pit lane, as does Carter Lundy. So we're starting to see the beginning of the pit stops for the medium runners. And they're going to be strapping on a set of these soft compound of tyre. We'll see where that gets them, as Jake Benham's closing to Luke Smith, who's going to go around the outside of Wilson Hughes and towards the first corner. The battle for the net race lead, as Luke Smith has got the inside line for the second part of the Solana S's. Wilson Hughes has lost out to Jake Benham now, who's going to sneak up the inside down the Trans Zero straight. They're going to run wheel to wheel. Is Jake Benham going to clear him here? Indeed he does. So Wilson Hughes, in the space of 3 or 4 corners, now loses out 2 positions. Luke Smith retakes the net race lead of this Grand Prix. Jake Benham into net P2, Wilson Hughes down into 6th position, and what is a net P3, but it's all kicked off on lap number 21. It's going to allow for the likes of Haddad, Poland and Opmeer to close that gap ever so slightly, but it's always lovely to see some action and some battling here in PSGL.
Very smart move there from Jake Benham, using obviously the scrap happening between Wilson Hughes and Luke Smith, and then pulling it off at the very last minute. He saw an opportunity, he went for the gap, he pulled it off, and you can argue that Wilson Hughes is probably going to be kicking himself that he left that wide open for the All-Star. As now into the pit lane comes Donoso, Norbert Jakob as well, Primoz Miklovic, as now we see them march their way down the straight. Luke Smith now the absolute leader in this Mexican Grand Prix. Jake Benham in second. What a rise here from the All-Star. Wilson Hughes now looking down the inside to maybe just upset, just unsettle Jake Benham slightly, but nevertheless Benham in second, holds out ahead of Wilson Hughes. A great showing indeed. Brendan Lee now back out on track as he now looks to challenge Duncan Hoffland down the inside at turn 1. Brendan Lee very smoothly does it in towards P10, and now chasing his teammate Andrei Tarabukin. And key to know, Jarno Opmeer 1 second off Jordan Poland. He is reeling them in, Danfield, reeling them in.
Absolutely, he's lost out greatly. He was in 3rd position before the pit stops, but now he's beginning to make up that deficit that he lost, as Carter Lundy has lost the position to Fabrizio Donoso for 12th place. And we've already seen Duncan Hoffland lose out, and Andrei Tarabukin is next up because Brendan Lee clears him into the S's. And this is where we're seeing the or the repercussions of what happened earlier when Tara Buchan and Hoffland weren't able to clear the the medium runners in behind, and it's hurt them in the long run because they're not going to be scoring any points in this race. I can almost guarantee that, because the fresher soft compounder tyre, they're going to have so much more pace in comparison up ahead, so it's going to be a rough ride for Tara Buchan and Hoffland. Brendan Lee, I don't think he's done here, because he looks to make the move on Jack West at the moment in towards turn number 1. He's using up the DRS, doesn't even need the battery to go sailing up the inside and into 8th position. He's now got all the clear air in the world and 5.2 seconds of a gap to make up to Zella Christoph until he is into the train and possibly in the fight for the lead, George.
Yeah, and also Wilson Hughes getting very close to the rear of Jake Benham, obviously licking his wounds after that issue earlier on. Just to say, folks, we've still got 10 laps left in this Grand Prix. Plenty of time for an upset here as Donoso now moves up into 11th place, as we're now watching Wilson Hughes try and get closer and closer to the All-Star. And we just watched them fight it out before. Obviously, Jake Benham taking the advantage of the opportunity. Daniel Haddad, just to mention, has also caught up with the front runners as well. He's now in 4th place and has made an almighty charge. This is arguably the best performance I have seen from Daniel Haddad to date, certainly here at PSGL, as now we're watching them head through the next right-hander and down through towards the long straight. Jana Watmir 2 seconds in behind Jordan Poland. That gap has started to stagnate slightly. Carter Lundy in 12th after moving ahead of Andre Tarabukin. As now further up, we can see there now that Jake Benham is starting to get closer and closer to that of Luke Smith. Jack West is out to DNF, speeding in the pit lane, Jack West as well. So his race has come to an end. At least he retired in the pit lane, but never nice to see that indeed, but at least there's no safety car.
Yep, absolutely, and I'm hearing in the live chat now that Jan Opp is having issues with his headset dying out, and he's tabbing out at the moment. This is really hurting his race at the moment. We're on lap number 24 of 36. He's still got time to get these issues sorted and catch up to the rest of the grid. It's unfortunate that Jack West is DNF'd in this one, but yeah, it's good to see that he's retired in the pit lane. We've seen 4 retirements in this Grand Prix: the Williams of West, the Red Bull of Welch, the Alpine of Saipos, and the Alfa Romeo of Pedreño. As on lap number 24, we've got Luke Smith leading from Jake Benham, Wilson Hughes in 3rd, and Daniele Haddad as well in 4th. We've not seen too much of the Italian, but now he could be in the fight for the race win. There's a bit of a deficit between 4th and 5th of 2.1 seconds to Daniele Haddad from Jordan Poland in behind. We'll see what Wilson Hughes can do as he's closing to Jake Benham. Can he go for an overtake in towards turn number 1? He's certainly looking like he wants to try for an overtake as he's using up some of the battery. And Jake Benham as well is trying to go up the inside of Luke Smith. They concertina up in towards the first corner, and it's going to set them all up nicely for the Transira straight as here they go on lap number 25. A bit of a slide for the McLaren of Wilson Hughes, and that's killed his run, I think, in towards the Esse de Largo corner. As into the braking zone they go. They remain 1, 2, 3 and 4 on lap number 25.
I think that was more a defensive manoeuvre from Jake Benham. He knows that if he loses that place to Wilson Hughes, that will cost him massively, because he will struggle to get back past the McLaren. Remember the tyre wear, folks. 1 lap can make all the difference, certainly here on the Formula 1 game. Jake Benham on 13 lap tyres, Wilson Hughes on 2 lap fresher tyres. That could be very important towards the end of this race. And Daniel Haddad, surely Jake Benham is going to be fodder for that of the Aston Martin, who is only boxed on the same length of tyres as Wilson Hughes. So at the end of the day, the Aston Martin of Daniel Haddad in a perfect position here to potentially snatch a podium. No penalties to his name either, and Jake Benham needs to pull out all the stops because he's the only one in the top 4 with a penalty, so that could prove very, very key indeed. Yada Watmir, though, back in business. He's within DRS range now of Jordan Poland as we now watch the top 4 now send it down towards turn 1 and in towards the Solana S's. Once again, Jake Benham just covering the inside slightly, just stopping Wilson Hughes from making those important moves. He wants to force Wilson into a mistake, force him to use his tyres, use and abuse those tyres in order to give himself a better chance of holding on to a podium here today.
Yeah, we've seen another DNF in the pit lane. Jonah Martins makes it a double DNF for Red Bull. Unfortunate to see. That's now 5 retirements out of this race, as the top 4 all running at the moment in tandem, saving up the resources to go for a 10.5 lap dash as they sail their way through the S's. It's lovely to see how they slalom through this part of the circuit with such precision, as I think you and I, George, we'd be all over the place, as in towards the Delavallo straight into the braking zone. Can Luke Smith hold off these guys right until the end? When is Wilson Hughes going to bite the bullet and go for the overtake on Jake Benham? These are all unanswered questions which will have it all be resolved in the last 10 laps of this Grand Prix. Lap number 27 of 36 rolls along now, and Wilson Hughes following in behind Jake Benham with Daniele Haddad as well. Luke Smith beginning to slip away up the road ever so slightly, being pulled in though by the DRS. Jan Ortmeier in behind of Jordan Poland goes for the overtake, and he goes into 5th position. Now got 2.8 seconds of a deficit to make up, as Brendan Lee as well, he's managed to close the gap, and he goes up the inside of Christoph Zeller. And surely this is where all of the medium runners feel a little bit vulnerable to the charging Ferrari, who's now going to be going up the inside of the hat into the braking zone, and down the inside goes Brendan Lee. P6 secured at the Essa del Lago, and the fresher soft tyres really going to be kicking into gear. Brendan Lee, he's now got Jan Ortmeier in front of him, 2 esports champions, both with 2 titles to their name, and it's going to be a poetic finish to this Grand Prix, George.
Just about to say, downfield, this is a battle of the Titans. Brendan Lee in 6th place, just dispatching Jordan Poland exactly like Jarno Otmir did only a matter of moments ago. And as they make their way in towards the next right at turn 12, we're going to be witnessing something eternally special, as now the Ferrari, who has pulled off certainly a masterclass here at Mexico. Brendan Lee with a huge jump. He went long a little bit on the medium stint and has come out now and managed to strap on a set of softs, and he's using them to, well, every way, which way he likes. Brendan Lee now to maybe make a move on the Flying Dutchman. Jarno is not closing him off here. Brendan Lee down the inside in towards turn 1. The champion from 2017 and 18 goes ahead of the current world champion Jarno Otmir. Absolute scenes here at the Esports Invitational. It's Brendan Lee on top ahead of Jarno Otmir. Incredible scenes.
Yeah, and they're all fighting up ahead as well. Wilson Hughes goes around the outside of Jake Benham. He's now got the inside for the Hekila corners. He can't quite make this move stick, but this is all helping Brendan Lee in behind, because now he's 3/10 off the back of Haddad. And surely the Ferrari's going to have a field day at the moment on these guys, as the Aston Martin is going to be his first victim. He's got such superior grip through the S's. Here comes Brendan Lee, going to pick off his first rival, surely through Delavallo. He's not quite close enough to go for the move this time by, but on lap number 28 of 36, the top 5 looks like this. Luke Smith leading the way, Jake Benham in 2nd, 3rd is Hughes, 4th is Haddad, and Brendan Lee on the fresher soft compound of tyre is in 5th, as here they go off the exit of the Pelotada for lap number 29 to begin now. Who is going to be able to make the moves? Brendan Lee doesn't seem like he's got a good exit, and I don't think he wants to go for the overtakes this time by, as in towards the first corner they go. They're all so close together, but they all remain in their positions. What about through the Solana S's? Is anyone going to see an opportunity? Lee down the inside of Daniele Haddad. He scared him ever so slightly. I thought he went for the overtake. Not quite though, as they come to the end of the first sector, and they all still remain in their positions that they were. And don't forget Jarno Otmir in behind, George.
I tell you what, fans at home, if you've never seen me before, you know we're on the edge. Oh no! Brendan Lee! What? Big drama. Brendan Lee slowing down for a moment. Now, I'm not sure if that was a technical issue, but out of nowhere, Brendan Lee slowing up. We've got an issue for Brendan Lee, and that is a huge issue, a huge problem. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but drama here at this point. I'm wondering, when we saw him go into the back of the Aston Martin, was that a brake failure? Dan?
I have no idea. What's happening to Brendan Lee? He's slowing up. I feel for him. I really do feel for him. Like, there's no random issues that we can get, so it's got to be something on his rig. Whether that's his brakes have glitched out, his steering looks a bit unstable. I'd imagine we're going to get the word from him on Twitter as into the pit lane he goes. I think that's the end of the race for Brendan Lee. He retires in the pit lane, and surely that's heartbreak for him, because he could have been on top in the Esports Invitational. But that's another DNF out in this Grand Prix. That makes it 6, as I think he got damage or something here, because that's what Big C's saying in the chat there. But I feel for Brendan Lee, George.
Yeah, that is devastating, and it's taken away what could have possibly been such an incredible finale. I mean, I don't think it'll take much away because, of course, we've still got a lot going on, but it would have been great to see the likes of Jarno, Brendan, all fighting for the win at this point, because of course it's all well and good Brendan being on softs at this point, but we still have 6 laps left to go. Those softs aren't going to be OP right to the end of this race. Don't forget, Jarno has got 6 laps. He's in P5, and they are 4 laps fresher than that of Daniele Haddad and Wilson Hughes, let alone Jake Benham and Luke Smith, who's leading this race. Jarno Opmeer in with a huge opportunity of winning this Grand Prix, in my opinion, just based off the strategy alone. Incredible, to say the least, as now Luke Smith leading the charge down through towards turn 1. Jake Benham still 3/10 back, and that gap is being crawled downwards. Daniele Haddad still looking menacing in P4, but all eyes on Jarno Opmeer, 5/10 of a second back behind Daniele Haddad. This is far from over, Danfield.
Absolutely, it's still going to be a challenge though for the Flying Dutchman to make these overtakes, given that they've got 3 DRS zones on this circuit. It's very difficult to overtake in a DRS train, and we've seen that throughout this race, but the drivers haven't opted to go for the move just because they prefer having the DRS on the car in front. You'll see all of their resources have been stacked up. I'll read out the ERS levels now. Luke Smith has only got 27% in the battery, Jake Benham with 98%. Wilson Hughes was 71, Daniele Haddad was 60, Opmeer was 75, Jordan Poland on 22, and Zeller on 13. So it seemed like Jake Benham, in terms of the resources to play with, he's been able to save them up the most, and he's going to have that to his advantage. But on towards lap number 32, we're coming up now to 5 laps to go in this race. Luke Smith still leading the way at the moment. I think Wilson Hughes might be getting a little bit impatient in behind Jake Benham, but you don't see them using up any of the battery because they're just going to be saving it for the last 2 tours of this race. Daniele Haddad, though, as I say that, looks to be close to the rear of the Scotsman. In towards turn number 1, though, George, no one's opting to go for an overtake.
I think a lot of it has to do with the DRS train at this point here, Dan. I think a lot of them are locked in right now, and until one of them upsets it, I think that is going to remain the case, at least for the time being. This is Jarno's greatest enemy right now, is certainly this DRS train. What we need to know is how are the energy levels on each of these individual cars. If one of them can break the chain, then we could see some major changes up in the top 5, but we'll have to wait and see. Plenty of them, though, lined up in behind. Just look at the string of penalties as well from P6 downwards. Only 13 cars left in this Grand Prix as we watch Wilson Hughes now in 3rd place start to whittle away, start to put the axe to the tree or the log that is Jake Benham's 2nd place spot. 3/10 of a second the deficit between the pair, the 2 friends who certainly do battle, practice together as well. I've spoken to them on many occasions. Absolutely fantastic pair of lads, to say the least, who like to battle on this game and certainly have certainly revised every aspect of becoming a great F1 esports driver, and certainly these 2, I can certainly see them battling in amongst the best of them in days and weeks and years and months and what not to come, decades to come, who knows, as they now make their way towards turn 1. A look there from Wilson Hughes as Jake Benham once again shuts the door as they march their way through the 1st sector, but still Luke Smith leads as they now round now towards the Transira Straight. Is this going to be an opportunity for Wilson Hughes? He is now nearly 2.5 tenths in behind now of Jake Benham. He might look to charge, 3 laps left, can't quite find it. I get the feeling this is the calm before the storm here, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely, of course, in behind Fabrizio Donoso is getting involved, and he goes up the inside of Christoph Zeller. So now another soft runner sees himself into the battle. That's those Primoz Miklavčić. He's in the fight as well. So that's another factor that we do have to consider. Those softs are certainly far from their best, but they might be equal or maybe even slightly quicker than those mediums strapped on to the drivers in front. Possibly not the likes of Jarno Opmeer, who's only got 15 laps on this set. And you consider that, you compare that to Jake Benham. He's been on his tyres for 21 laps in this Grand Prix. So I'd imagine that it's going to be a range of different paces that these drivers are running at, and that's going to make for all the more hellacious end to what has been a brilliant Esports Invitational race. As here comes Wilson Hughes closing to the rear of Jake Benham, as is Daniele Haddad. They're all going to close up towards turn number 1. Benham has to defend to the inside. Wilson Hughes going to look down in towards the inside and towards the first corner. They have 3 abreast as Jake Benham comes out on top there. Luke Luke Smith's lost out the most here, as I think there's been a decapua out of this Grand Prix. Daniele Haddad could be seizing the opportunity to go past Luke Smith as well, as around the outside in towards Largo, the Italian, soars around the outside of the Williams in the Aston Martin as they make contact, and that's going to allow for Jan Ortmir to look into the battle, and in towards Horkila they go, still side by side between the Aston Martin and the Williams. More contact between the pair of them, wheel banging allows for Daniele Haddad to come out on top here, but at this moment in time on lap number 34 of 36, it's Jake Benham leading from Wilson Hughes.
One difference, one mistake is all it took. One thing to break the chain, and now Jake Benham is on top in this Grand Prix. Luke Smith, I bet he did not figure that would happen here in lap 34 or 36. As they now head down through towards the Peraltada at turn 17, through the final corner here to commence lap 35 of 36 as they then march their way down the straight. Jake Benham, 7/10 of a second of the realm ahead now. Here comes Jan Ortmir now, down through the inside past Luke Smith, moves up into P4, the Flying Dutchman, far from done, far from broke, he's going for it. Podiums on the table here for Mercedes.
Absolutely, it's a 1 and 4 at the moment for the pair of them in this Esports Invitational. Jan Ortmir has done a superb job of making this strategy work when we thought it was all lost, I'd say, for a little bit, given that he let himself get undercut by a good few laps, as there goes Donoso up the inside of Poland. And they continue on lap number 35 of 36. Surely, George, this is where it's all going to kick off. They've got one more tour of the circuit. The ERS levels for the top three will read out. Jake Benham with 79%, Wilson Hughes with 68%, and Daniele Haddad with 46%. They've got to burn that, because once the race is over, they can't use it anymore. So why not blitz it all now? And that's what they're thinking about doing, as there's a 5/10 deficit between the two leaders at this point in time. Wilson Hughes has got one more opportunity, surely, or maybe even two, to go up the inside and overtake Jake Benham for the win of this race on track. As here they go off the exit of Peraltada now. Jake Benham leading Wilson Hughes, and already darting to the inside line, weaving, trying to break the toe. Jan Ortmir in behind, closing to the rear of Haddad in towards the first corner up the inside. Can any of them try it? I don't believe so. Wilson Hughes gets close to the rear of Benham, but he can't find an overtake now. But he's got the whole Transira straight to go up the inside in towards Largo, as DRS now enabled, and it's open. Rear wing deployed for Wilson Hughes, but I don't think, George, he's close enough, as in towards the braking zone they go. It is not enough. Wilson Hughes cannot get by Jake Benham on circuit, and they're going to follow through Horkila now for the final time in this race. Jake Benham leading from Wilson Hughes. Daniele Haddad in third, fourth for Ortmir. They may stay in this position towards the end of this race, as Ortmir, though, he's looking to try and make an overtake on Haddad, possibly through Delavalo, as off the exit of the corner they go in towards turn number 12. The ERS being deployed for the Dutchman. Can he try and move up the inside? It doesn't look enough, as through the stadium section they go. The confetti is going to be rising for Jake Benham, as he's led this race for just about a lap and a half, as through Peraltada for the final time in this race, it's going to be Jake Benham out on top on circuit. But with the penalties applied, it's Wilson Hughes to win the Esports Invitational.
What an absolute tremendous event. Unfortunately, due to a penalty, Jake Benham relegated to 5th place. But how about that? Wilson Hughes on top, sings today in the McLaren car. Incredible indeed. Jan Ortmir gets his podium finish. 3rd place is what he gets. But how about that? A dramatic finale. We knew that it was about to erupt. The volcano was on the precipice of erupting, folks. But standing tall today is none other than Wilson Hughes. Daniele Haddad with probably one of the best drives I've seen, certainly here in league racing, getting that brilliant 2nd place right in the midst of the fight. A superb strategy from the Italian, and also Jan Ortmir from what looked to be devastation, where it looked like he had a technical problem of sorts, managed then to bring the car back on the podium, and what undoubtedly is a superb result for Mercedes. Let's have a look now at the final results, folks. Wilson Hughes First place, P1 is what he gets after a single stop. Great stuff indeed. Daniel Haddad the same. Second place with Jarno Opmeer in third after a very unlikely strategy to say the least. Luke Smith in fourth with Jake Benham in fifth. Primoz Miklovic in sixth with Jordan Poland seventh. Christoph Zeller eighth with Norbert Jakob in ninth. Duncan Hoffland in 10th. Fabrizio Donoso 11th. Cartalundi in 12th. Alessio Di Capua was a DNF as well as Brendan Lee. 2 Ferraris certainly not having the best rub of the green today. Very sad to see Brendan Lee dip out. We lost Andre Tarabukin, Jonah Martins, Jack West, Louis Welch, and of course Patrick Sipos, folks. But wow, I tell you what, have your doubts. I have to say, it took a while to get going, but the final few laps were certainly electric. Dan, what do you make of that one?
It was a wonderful race, to say the very least. This wasn't even able, there were no points on the table for this. These drivers had no incentive to race as hard as they did, but they tried their hardest, and that's what I admire about these guys, is they've got the competitive drive. Just simply competing against each other is an incentive enough to fight with all of their might, and it's Wilson Hughes coming out on top today in what was a fantastic race. And I think one of the best parts of it today, at least from our point of view, George, is that we didn't see any issues with the desync.
No, I think that was probably a great thing. Obviously, a very big thank you to Codemasters and, of course, the Formula 1 game for obviously allowing us to do this, because I know PSGL, as well as many leagues, have had the opportunity to test the new potential update that will be rolled out next week, I would imagine, if everything goes to plan. It certainly looked today that everything went to plan. Certainly not for some of the drivers, though. Big shame to lose so many. But Brendan Lee, I think, was probably one of the most sorriest stories, I think, of the bunch there, Dan, because he had a huge opportunity to certainly land something really great on the board today. How disappointing do you think he feels, the fact that he was right in the midst to potentially win that race today? I think maybe the tyre wear might have been a little bit difficult to handle, given the fact he still had a long way to go, but never nice to dip out at the final moment.
I'd say it's really unfortunate that it ended the way that it did for Brendan Lee, because he certainly had the pace, and I think without his issues, saying that he had damage, I don't believe that... I believe that he would have been able to, he'd have been able to win this race. But of course, that's all if, buts, or maybes. Woulda, shoulda, coulda sort of story. It's Wilson Hughes out on top, and I'm seeing that we could have some interviews, George. Do we want to do interviews today? I kind of want to. Oh,
yeah, definitely. And without a doubt, we're going to call in one man who certainly we do want to hear from, because he was right in the midst of the fight. It was probably one of the most physical contests we've seen in PSGL for a long, long time. I'm glad to be joined by Wilson Hughes, winner of the Mexican Grand Prix. Wilson, what an event, first of all, and what a battle as well. You were right in the midst of it. There were so many occasions where the win might have looked in doubt, but on the other hand, you had the upper hand. I mean, it just sort of went backwards and forwards a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting race. I think nobody was really fully prepared for this race. I mean, we got told last minute yesterday that there will be a race today, so I don't think everyone was fully prepared, especially in the race. I had no clue where anyone was put in. I had no clue what the tyre wear was going to be like. So it was definitely an interesting race. I hope it put on a good show for the viewers nonetheless. But yeah, definitely very interesting, very tipsy-turvy. 1 minute I'm in third, 1 minute I'm leading. In the soft stint I had a lot of pace, so yeah, you nailed it on the head there.
Yeah, it certainly seemed that way from where we saw it in the commentary box. I mean, we had that great moment between yourself, Luke Smith, and of course Jake as well. I mean, going 3 wide in towards turn 1, was it Code Brown at that point, or did you feel you were going to come out on top? I mean, there are no certainties in racing, I'd imagine, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure what was going on at that turn 1, because I was getting attacked from behind, so I was like, right, well, I need to go for it. There's no other option. So I went for it in Jake went for it in Luke. Next minute, we're 3 wide, and there was an arrow on my screen. I wasn't too sure if that was Luke, and I was like, all right, well, let's just hold it, and if we crash, we crash. So I held it. Thankfully, it wasn't Luke, but yeah, it was definitely a Code Brown moment.
It was brilliant to watch, but obviously that gives you a lot of confidence. I mean, you said it yourself. Obviously, I think a lot of people are aware about challenges. Obviously, it was a very tough event. You yourself, once again, you were pretty much thrown into the heat of battle at that point. Some ups, some downs, and you said it yourself that it was, you felt okay about the event. I mean, how much confidence does that give you? A race win, despite it not being for championship points, but at the same time, a win nonetheless. What does that do for the confidence?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a shame it's not going to count towards points. I was saying I don't want it to count towards points. Now I want it to count towards points. But yeah, it definitely does help. I mean, I said 3 challenges it was a really mental battle throughout the whole challenges because the top 6 means quite a lot for me at the moment. And it meant a lot. But it's nice to come into PSGL just a little bit more relaxed. Race the way I want to race, do everything the way I want to. And it is quite a nice confidence boost. But I also think it proves how high the level was in Challengers because everyone in Challengers was on their A game, and it shows that I can come in here, Tomic can come in here, any driver, even Jake. I mean, he isn't in Challengers, but he's definitely a young protagonist like ourselves, can come in here and fight at the top with the big guns, so I think it gives us all confidence.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a very important point there because obviously I think you'll probably see it the same way as well with the likes of Jake, Luke, yourself and everybody, even the likes of Thomas Ronhar and many others as well. Very much the new generation starting to rise through now and potentially be in line for F1 esports seats over the next couple of years. Do you see the complexion of F1 esports changing dramatically? Do you think we're going to be seeing a very, very different grid over the next 2 years?
George, I really do think we will see a very different grid. I was thinking about this the other day. I think it's going to shape up quite a lot different in the next few years. I think this year's esports season is just going to be the start of it. And I think over the next few years, you're really going to start to see the young guns come in.
Yeah, well, it's been brilliant to see, and all of you deserve your shot, to say the least. I want to congratulate you on a fantastic result there, Wilson, and without a doubt, it won't be the last, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much, Wilson. So, Dan, obviously filled with confidence is Wilson Hughes, and he has every right to be, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, Wilson Hughes, he's something special. I think, but he's been a part of the league racing scene for quite some time. He's a 2-time PSGL champion, don't forget, and I think Wilson Hughes is going to be a great confidence boost for him, and I know he can still hear that he's just gone into the waiting room. Actually, he's just left our VC, unfortunately, but...
well, I just moved him, actually, so we could go back to the webcam screen, because the problem is, if you have too many people in this chat, it shows up 3 windows, so it doesn't quite fit in our windows, so we'll bring him back later on, I'm sure. We'll have a chat with Wilson later on, offline, but yeah, no, carry on. What were you saying?
I mean, it's just great to see his journey in league racing. He's come up from running a small little league on a Saturday, having issues with his wheel, jumping in the commentary box as well. That was a fun little taster that he had. He's got all the talent in the world, and not just in the driving as well, and I'm really excited to see how he can do, and this win certainly is going to be a confidence boost, especially going into the last few races of this season. Of course, I believe he took time off due to, he might have had COVID, I'm not too sure on that, but I believe he was also just practicing for challengers, and didn't really have time for PSGL. But I'd imagine he's fresh-faced now, and he's going to be coming back in with a vengeance, and we'll see him very competitive in PSGL in the last few rounds.
Yeah, I mean, he touched on a very poignant point as well about the mental stability in esports, and certainly in the likes of his challenges events that he was having, certainly with some of the many other young drivers looking to get seats in F1 esports. And it is a lot of pressure on a lot of these drivers. So, and he played on the importance of racing against the best as well. And is that just going to encourage the next lot of drivers coming through to get the standard higher and higher than what it already is? Because I can't see an end to this run. Surely, I suppose the talent level is just going to continue to rise and rise and rise.
Absolutely. I think it's sort of just a natural progression of everyone, just playing, not even just this game, playing the F1 games for so many years now that the level just keeps getting better and better. You see this in other esports as well. With like Overwatch and stuff, the worst guys might be better than those who were the best in 2017, and that's just because the level of play has gotten so much better nowadays. And if they keep continuing on like this, we're gonna see someone eventually maybe supersede the likes of Brendan Lee and Jan Ortmir as GOAT status. But of course, that is certainly for the future, and maybe it's someone that we've already seen in PSGL today. Perhaps, we just don't know at this point. But I'd say, George, that the level is only going to get better and better, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah, well, we can talk about the stars of tomorrow or yesteryear all night. But I have to say, the stars of tonight have been you guys at home. Big thank you to every single one of you for tuning in, and such a huge amount of you to watch us tonight. Not to mention, big thank you to everyone for the donations as well. And it really truly means a lot to a league such as PSGL rising up to the levels it has done. I, of course, was here when it was 700 subs, only a matter of a few seasons ago. We are now touching basically nearly 15,000 subscribers. It's absolutely mega. And I want to say a big thank you to you at home as well. Also on a personal note for having me back as well, because it's been a while, folks, and it's great to be back here in all things blue, black and grey, and a little bit of white as well. It's great to be here at PSGL, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. And we'll look forward to another great season. Of course, Andy will be back, I'm sure, to bring you your regular racing action, I'm sure, when it's back on. But personally, from me, special thank you to each and every one of you. I want to thank you as well, Dan, for having me as well, because of course I'm joining you at your usual turf week in, week out. So but we will obviously be bringing you more racing action, I'm sure, very soon, folks. As soon as the new patch gets rolled out, there'll be more top tier PC action to bring you, so hold on to your hats, because it's only just getting started. We've still got a long calendar ahead, and in fact I am going to show you that calendar because I'm pre-prepared when it comes to broadcasts. As you can see, we've still got the likes of Singapore, United States, Italy and Bahrain. It might be the case that they have to go back to Brazil and Mexico. I'm sure PSGL will do an announcement on that very, very soon, but still plenty of races left on the calendar for the title to be decided. But currently, Dan, no one touching the Flying Dutchman. Jarno Watmere clearly on top.
Absolutely. He's been on a bit of a tear for these last few weeks, and maybe someone that we've seen tonight could be the one to challenge him. We'll just have to wait and see once we get back into league racing. But I think the signs that that have been indicated tonight is that this patch is, fingers crossed, is stable, because it has worked out well for us today. We'll have to see how it gets on with WR on Sunday. I believe yesterday MRL tested it as well, so hopefully it is stable. It could be rolled out to the live patch very soon, and we can get back with our regular broadcasting every week.
Absolutely, folks. And if you want to stay up to date, you can stay up to date on Twitter at PSGL, Premier Sim Gaming League. That is the one you want, or Premier Sim GL. That is the @ tag. You can also find me on Twitter as well, at George Morgan TV. And Dan, give them your Twitter feed, if you please.
My name on Twitter is danfieldf1_. I recently just hit 1,000. I've dipped under that, so maybe if you want to be the 1,000th once again, you can drop me a follow. It'd be greatly appreciated.
Or you can unfollow as well, Dan.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. If you also want to check out as well, PSGL has just opened up a new Instagram account, so make sure you head over to that as well at Premier Sim Gaming Leagues. Find that on Instagram and join in on the fun. You can catch all the updates and the action on there. What may be highlights as well that you can watch as well. But I have to say, folks, it has been an absolute pleasure bringing you all the action. Special thank you to everyone in the live chat. Please make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon for yet more action here at Premier Sim Gaming Leagues. I'll see you again soon, folks. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy your Easter weekend. Goodbye.
It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out, and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake.
Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again.
This will be settled right at the end.